program will begin with a procession. We'd like to request that as the procession proceeds to the hall, we will all be upstanding and observe. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me start. So why are you moving on to the street? Okay, now that the session has taken place and we're all senior analysts and the director,
God in heaven, we thank you for a blessed day like this. We thank you for the opportunity given us to come here for this year's annual conference. Father, we surrender the conference to you. We ask that even as we are starting, that you send your Holy Spirit to come and direct the proceedings for today, that we leave here fully loaded and able to communicate, will meet the listening ears of where we submit them to your glory in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you so much. Can we jam our hands together, please? Let me answer that this program has started. I used to have this, my professor, who believed that in every Nigerian program of activity, the first item should be apology for late commencement. So when you start the program, the first thing you will say is to apologize for starting late. Because this program actually was scheduled to start by 10 a.m. and by my own watch, it's 11:40. That means we're starting very, very late. I'd like to sincerely apologize on behalf of the organizers for this late commencement. I'd like to say that this is the third annual conference and general meeting of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers Harcourt Chapter. In the course of the program, we shall be looking at the theme, transforming solid waste to renewable energy. The chairman of this program actually is the chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, who is here with us, Engineer Otunte John Otweni. He is ably represented by the chairman-elect, the incoming chairman of the branch, Engineer Dr. Atumenu and Amadi. Please, Chairman. He was actually here earlier, but had to step out to attend to some issues at the faculty. We have on the high table there the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, River State University, Engineer Professor C.O. Harcourt. Please recognize the Dean of the Faculty.
Please.
We have the Chairman, MC. Of the Nigerian Institution of Governmental Engineers, Harcourt Chapter, Engineer John Egwebo. Please recognize him. We also have the immediate past chairman of the Harcourt branch of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, Engineer Professor Mebaka J. Ayotamono. We have with us also the former Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, University of Harcourt, Engineer Professor Ogbonna F. Joel. We have seated on the high table the keynote speaker for today's program, Mr. Opakrite Bray. Thank you so much. We have a special marshal with us, Mr. Theophilus Igobubu.
He's the state coordinator.
You're welcome. Let me specially recognize my own head of department, Engineer Professor Silas O. Nkakili. And by the way, let me say that everybody in this show is actually specially recognized. So, the Vice Chancellor of this university is actually dealing to be with us. In a very short time, he will join us. And I understand that he will be sending the high-powered representative or delegation to be with us. So please, can we put our hands together for the Vice Chancellor? Having done this, it's now time for us to take the national anthem. Don't forget that when we looked at the program, we saw a complete misrepresentation of the Dean of Faculty of Engineering, not properly recognizing his status. If you look at page 9, the Dean was treated just like an ordinary engineer like me. He is actually engineer professor, not engineer. He's engineer professor C.O. Ajako, Dean Faculty of Engineering, Harcourt. So even though the mistake is on the paper, note it in your head that this is who he is. Please put your hands together for the Dean. Thank you so much and God bless you. May we now rise as we take the national anthem together. Thank you very much. You may be seated. I want to remind us once again that this is the third annual conference and annual general meeting of the Nigerian Institution of Chemical Engineers, and we will be addressing the subject transforming solid waste to renewable energies. Several years ago, some of us had posited that in a couple of years, people will begin to drag on their waste. And I can assure you that by reason of refuse buyback, a lot of people are now protective of their waste. People are mindful of not discarding their waste anyhow. So we'll be looking at all those in the course of this conference. I'd like to appeal to us to be patient with the conference. We're not going to spend so much time. Before it comes dark, we'll be closing. Having said that, I want to invite the chairman of NIEE Harcourt Chapter, Engineer Dr. John N. Fugwebo, for his welcome address. My chairman, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I want to first recognize the presence of the Dean of Engineering, our able professor of engineering, today we are in your domain, and we're happy to have you in our midst, yes, sir. You are welcome, sir. I also wish to recognize the presence of the immediate past chairman, the person of Professor Ayotomono. So you're welcome. We wish to recognize the presence of the chairman of NSC, ably represented by Dr. Amani. Please, you're welcome. Also wish to recognize the presence of the HOD engineering, agric engineering, who is also present in our midst here. The person of Professor Sio Yoko. You're welcome, sir. Kakini, sorry. You're welcome, sir. Also want to recognize the presence of our center leader for World Bank, University of Port Harcourt, also our able member, Professor Bunanjua. You are welcome, sir. Let me recognize our keynote speaker today from the industry. Took a lot of time to pull him out from his very busy schedule. And we are very happy to have you in our midst. Person of Mr. Creed, you're welcome. We also recognize the presence of our state coordinator, who is one of our guests to this program. State coordinator of RISC Special Marshals. And also is doubling as one of those who is supporting us in this program. Person of Theophilus Glukobu, you are welcome, sir. And we want to recognize every one of us who are here. I can see that these are all able professionals. It's like we are very selfish about this program. The students are supposed to be here, but I'm not saying many of them are. Some of them are writing exams. And you know, students and exam is a lot of challenge. We're also expecting the DC of Rivers State University, or his representative will be coming from now. When he steps in, we will recognize him. Well, let me start by saying that this is our third annual conference, and tomorrow we'll be having the AGM at Bennett Car, the NSC's secretary. So I'm saying this for those of us who probably, especially the new inductees, who may not have visited there, so that you don't come here tomorrow and begin to say how you couldn't find anybody. We are starting there by exactly 10. It's the AGM. We are not supposed to spend a lot of time. And you will also be inducted at that place. It is my pleasure to welcome every one of us, every one of you to this program. This year's conference is very important because it will afford us the opportunity to discuss very important global issues. You know, today the world is shifting from petroleum, fossil fuel, and we're shifting to renewable energy. I think I may go to tell you that a lot of companies are turning their name from the usual name of just petroleum company to energy companies. And that is done because they are expanding their business to renewable energy, which is very much environmentally friendly. And this is actually in line with the UN decade of action to reduce the problem of climatic change and other environmental degradation. As environmental engineer, our roles are to solve problem of pollution and support innovation that will lead to technological transformation through engineering practice. And we enhance ourselves through such, conference. That's why in academics is highly valued. If you're in academics and after 3 years you did not attend any conference, it may even affect your promotion. And I make good to say that it's important that you attend conferences, workshops that will help to improve your knowledge, particularly in your key areas. It is my belief that this platform will serve that purpose of improving our knowledge in environmental practice through presentation of quality papers on how municipal solid waste will be utilized to generate energy with less carbon emission. Transforming solid waste to energy will help reduce environmental degradation, which daily degrades and make the environment very much unlivable. The planet Earth today is seriously challenged with the presence of climatic change, fresh water scarcity, loss of biodiversity, marine pollution, seafood disappearance, coastal zonal degradation, and sea rise, ecological impact, changing social values, unsightly environment, air and land pollution, disappearance of invasive species, and even fast reducing life expectancy. Of course, we know today a lot of people are dying younger than they could have, and you can't hold any company responsible. Today we see soot in Port Harcourt, which is a major problem, and we know these are all environmental problems. So one of the pathways to find solutions to this global problem is to host a conference with the team transforming solid waste to renewable energy. The NIEE today has keyed into the global trend and paradigm shift to renewable energy, gradually adopted by many countries and developing countries of the world. From studies, over 25 countries to 30 countries have already keyed into that. And it's important that what we are doing today is to support the move that it is time for Nigeria also to key into transforming into renewable energy. NIEE calls on the government and corporate organizations to fast-track turning this vision into reality in several cities of Nigeria. Many countries of the world are reaping from waste-to-energy technology today. Examples like the USA, Finland, Sweden, China, Japan, UK, and some other countries. I enjoin everyone to relax today as we are here and enjoy your stay as you listen to all the technical papers during the conference. I welcome you to the conference. Have a good day, and thank you very much for listening.
with that kind of applause, it is either that you didn't like the address, okay, this is better, this is better. I'd like to very quickly announce that the representative of the Vice Chancellor of the University has just arrived. He is Professor Mary Amadi, Director of Political Science. Let me also recognize the head of the Department of Governmental Engineering, University of Calabar, Engineer Ethan Daniel Morgan. It is, like I said, it is the conference. One of the things you hear frequently when you attend programs is that this is not a speech-making program, so we will not talk for so much. Anywhere that they are not speech-making programs, teachers hardly go there. You know, because the business of teachers actually is to talk. The average staff believes that when he talks, he gets paid. You know, teachers get paid for talking. So when you give a teacher an opportunity to talk, he just keeps talking, believing that somehow you may pay him along the line. So please, I'd like to tell us that this program is a speech-making one, and we're going to take a lot of speeches. Not like I will invite, as we've had a welcome address, I will invite the Chairman of NSC Harcourt branch to give us the opening remark. Mr. Chairman.
I want to recognize the presence of my amiable Dean of Faculty, Engineer Professor Christopher Harcourt. I also want to recognize the presence of the Vice Chancellor, ably represented here by Professor Eric Amadi. He's the Director of Quality Assurance of the University. I also want to recognize other important dignitaries here seated on the high table. At a time when the world is beset with the enormous challenge of meeting up with rising energy demands while protecting human health and the environment, it is gratifying that the Nigerian Institution of Governmental Engineers Harcourt Chapter is coming up with such a beautiful theme, transforming solid waste to renewable energy. It is hoped that this event will come up with ideas that would significantly transform the status of energy in our dear country, Nigeria, while protecting our environment. It is on this note that I, Engineer Dr. Amadi, representing the Chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Harcourt Private Engineer, Otunte John Otwene, as the Chairman of this occasion, declare this event open. Thank you very much.
Keynote address, but before then, I'd like to invite the Dean Faculty of Engineering, Engineer Professor C. Harcourt to make a few remarks.
Quality Assurance Director of this university. The chairman this occasion, the chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers Harcourt branch, ably represented by our own, the Hachimini Amadi, the chairman of NIEE worldwide, the past chairman of NIEE, the keynote speaker, other protocols duly observed. I want to first and foremost appreciate the organizers of this conference for choosing this university. If you have not had us in mind, would have been considered presidential. But because of the love you have for this university, we decided to bring this conference down here. I appreciate it. We decided to also anchor on greenhouse. And I know, just a few days ago, we had an international conference. And this international conference was also anchored on how that conference can make us migrate to establishing a renewable energy center in this university. And I'm sure at the end of the deliberations, your inputs for this conference will help us to actualize that. The politicians will learn from us because I know that their agent is tomorrow and it will involve election. They will know how to elect people without breaking heads and without going to court. So thank you very much. Wishing you happy celebration.
Thank you so much, Dean Faculty of Engineering. Please, can we have a better round of applause for him? Let me tell us that the Dean of Faculty of Engineering loves matters of conferences because just 2 days ago, the Faculty of Engineering had its first international conference on new fields in engineering and technology. My dean, thank you so much. People should clap now. Is it because I did not inform us that Dr. Fisimama is at the back, he's taking note of people who are clapping. Because he has told me that when it's time for refreshment, it will be done according to how much clap you render. Thank you very much. At this point, let me invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Characterization, to take the stage. Welcome.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, Vice Chancellor, ably represented, Mr. Chairman, other distinguished members, this great gathering and association. I want to stand on already established protocol. Please permit me to stand on already established protocol as I take this keynote speech. Distinguished delegates, participants, ladies and gentlemen, before I progress, please. So, it is a great honor for me to deliver this keynote speech on behalf of Total Energies ERP Nigeria Limited. As the chairman rightly observed, we used to be known as Total E&P, but we've evolved to what is known today as Total Energies E&P Nigeria. For me, it is a great privilege and honor to deliver this speech at this important forum. I would like to first congratulate the NIEE, which is the Environment Division of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, for this conference, organizing this conference, and in particular the River State University for the warm hospitality having provided in hosting this conference. I would also not be mindful of the fact that a great effort and commitments have gone into the preparation of this conference by various stakeholders and key partners, and I want to say that effort has really paid off. Today, as requested by the organizers, let me first start with a brief on the waste situation that we have in Nigeria, and globally. Of course, the global population pressure, climate change, as the chairman rightly observed, and of course the very interesting and the upcoming topic of renewable energy and the situation as it pertains to the theme of today's event. Waste, as we know, are materials that are not the prime product that any businessman set out to produce, for which the initial user had, of course, had no further use in terms of its own purpose of production, transformation, or consumption, and of which he wants to dispose. And of course, this waste may be generated during the process of extracting raw materials, production and processing, and even consumption of these final products, ultimately resulting in the generation of waste. There are different classes of waste, which I wouldn't want to bore you on. At this point, I just would like to take it this way from this speech to say that each one of us, according to the UNEP report, generates or produces an average quantity of about 0.74 kg of waste per day. And of course, the United Nations Population Report puts the global population today at about 8 billion people. So if we juxtapose this number against the population of the world today, it's obvious that the earth cannot sustain this level of waste generation because it has finite capacity to manage this. And this is what underlines the fact that man, being a very creative being, have to evolve devices or strategies on how to manage this waste. And of course, this brings to mind the fact that renewable energy, on the other hand, generally it's something, an energy that is novel today globally, and because it is something that is derived from a source that is not carbonated or carbonized. And so doing, it helps us to produce energy that will not have great impact on our environment. So if you don't mind, I will quickly just switch over to this presentation slide. Please forgive me, so that I'm able to speed up the process. So please, can we take the next slide? This is about the definition of what waste is and the different types of waste that we have to manage in terms of subject at hand. And of course, as we know, waste has been a major environmental issue worldwide, and several tons of this waste have been generated globally. Because it is imperative that the earth has a finite capacity to manage this waste, that we have to evolve strategies on how to get this waste in a proper perspective. Most of us are already environmental experts or engineers in these fields, and we are familiar with the different types of waste that we have and the sources from which they are generated. According to the UNEP definition, these waste can be generated during the extraction of raw materials or processing or even production of consumption of materials. And having said that, we have to recognize the fact that to enable us manage this waste properly, the waste management hierarchy offers us various options on how best to manage this waste as it were. So if we come back to the various subject, the subject of the day, which is energy from waste, transforming our waste, which is more like a burden, a social burden on us, to a positive asset. The term energy recovery or energy from waste covers a range of different processes and technologies that helps us to generate usable energies from materials that are ordinarily supposed to be disposed of as unusable things. And then, of course, this, besides generating or recovering energy from these sources, helps us to reduce even the waste volume that we ultimately have to handle. And of course, the energy still derived from this process can be used for electricity, heating, and cooling, and fact, and as well as other forms of fuel that can be useful for mankind. The renewable energy, of course, comes from these renewable non-fossil sources, which I've mentioned, like solar, wind, wave, geothermal, and as well as waste in recent times. This residual waste, of course, have significant portion of materials like the food and other organic waste that can help us extract or recover energies to be used as renewable energies without depending solely on fossil fuel. I've talked about the population pressure, which is the fact that if each and every one of us seated around here generates 0.74 kilograms of waste per day, and if we look at the world population that stands at 8 billion today, for Nigeria, the estimated population as at 2020 was put over 12 million human beings. And it's also projected that by 2050, we would have been the 10th most populated country in the world if necessary measures and checks are not put in place, according to the World Bank report. So renewable energies, they offer us an opportunity. This chart shows us the fact that as human beings, we consume materials, we process materials, we extract materials that give rise to waste. On one hand, and on the other hand, we have need for energy. And as the population of the world keeps growing, we see that it gets to a recent, according to the International Energy Association, where we need to step in. Otherwise, we will get to the point whereby the carrying capacity of the earth will be exceeded. And what does that mean? This, of course, forms the basis for the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, the basic goals that have been defined, which are now 17. But clearly, we are looking at the goal 7 and goal 13, which have to talk about access to energy as well as emissions reduction, as it were. So, as we can see here, the UN statistics indicate that 1/3 of the world's population use dangerous and inefficient cooking systems. Now, what does that translate to? It means that for every 2.6 billion people that we have around the country, or 206 million people we have in Nigeria, if we look at the percentage or proportion of people who can afford safe and decent energies, you can be rest assured that this number will be very, very abysmal. Again, there is about 760 million people that lack access to electricity. 3 out of 4 of them live in sub-Saharan Africa, and that is where you also find Nigeria today. So the energy efficiency improvement rate has shown that there is a dire need for urgent steps and intervention to be taken in order to arrest this worrying trend. What are these key targets that the UN has set as sustainable development goals? Number 7 of these goals targets that we should have and ensure universal access to affordable and reliable modern energies, and increase substantially the share of renewable energy in the global energy mix. Not only that, we should expand our infrastructure and upgrade technologies for supplying modern and sustainable energy services to meeting our global energy needs and demands. And that is why this gathering today is very auspicious. The reason being that today, with these set goals, the question is, where are we in Nigeria in that mix? How do we meet this energy gap, energy deficit? Permit me to digress that if we look at around us, we're in the university, the amphitheater, so we have electricity. But it's not the same when you step outside the confines of places like this. And you imagine what happens in our largely rural environment where we have most of our people residing in. Today, it is reported that 1% of renewable energies already comes from waste. Is it not interesting? Because of this, their need to meeting global energy needs and bridging the gap of this energy gap or crisis, in addition to managing our waste. Today, globally, 1% of the renewable energies, as I mentioned, we talk about solar, we talk about wind, we talk about hydro, we talk about geothermal, and waste itself in some other climes are already contributing to meeting this global goal. The climate ultimately benefits from this kind of initiative as we extend beyond these renewables to waste-to-energy plants, so that we will be able to, by so doing, manage to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Some of us we are familiar with huge dump sites around our cities and countries. We are also inundated with heaps of waste and refuges in our cities, in our road caps, and everywhere we go through. And what that means is that these are abundant resources that, rather than being allowed to decompose and foul the air, emit methane and other kinds of greenhouse gases that can compound the global climate challenges already, to harness and recover valuable energy resources to help humanity. So while, from this waste-to-energy initiative, and by so doing, help us to generate energies that are very valuable, and also help to reduce greenhouse gas emission compared to the open burning and landfilling processes or practices that we have in our environment. And this is achieved through the use of high temperature plants or devices or technologies that can decompose or break down these organic compounds that will ultimately emit methane, which is a very serious culprit in the global warming case. So while waste-to-energy plants are typically clean, the mismanagement of this plant also brings up some kind of unsafe products that will not be good. Hence the need for us to look at it in depth, engineering-wise, regulatory-wise, to be sure that we have all that it takes to further this line of reasoning. When we look at waste conversion into renewable energies, this slide basically seeks to show us a schematic of how waste are generated, collected, and taken to waste-to-energy plant. The one that easily comes to mind, we know in town, like incinerators. Most of the operators patronize these third-party service providers. Why? These facilities, apart from managing to break down this waste, also reduce ultimately the volume of waste that have to be managed. So majorly the municipal solid waste that we have, they are basically collected and taken to plants that will now treat this waste, process this waste to generate energy, whether in the form of fuel, gas, electricity, as the case may be. So what it ultimately seeks to do is that this municipal waste can be converted into energy by using thermochemical or biological technologies that can help break down these organic compounds. So we see that when we look at the basic output, we have heat, we have electricity, we have the fly ash, we have the bottom ash from the processing facility. We also have the feedstock. And what are the feedstock, by the way? These are the materials that we take to these facilities to process, to generate or recover energy as it were. And this is just the global average. I mentioned earlier the 1% of what happened. But largely, landfill have been the major recipient or customer to disposal of waste, followed by other practices as it were. And the question is, what is our situation here in Nigeria? Because the specialty begins at home. And when we look at the current status of this waste-to-energy recovery technology, whether in the North America, in the Latin America, Europe, Africa itself, you can see the tiny patch of where we are in this discourse. And what is important is that biogenic municipal waste accounts for only 1% of this renewable energy globally. So it means we still have 99% of these resources to harness. Overall, 90% of these collected waste in Africa and in Latin America and the Caribbean are disposed in landfills and open dumps. It's not surprising because these are familiar scenes with us here in Nigeria. And over 80% of this thermal waste, 80% of this thermal waste to energy plants are located in the developed world, like Japan, US, and our chairman mentioned, Germany, and all the other clients. So where is Nigeria this map? Where is Africa this map? So it calls for greater commitment to this goal. We will see the global context. Currently, there are over 1,700 thermal plants worldwide. And as I mentioned, most of it are found in the developed world. But that is not to lose hope. The future trend, of course, is that this technology is receiving considerable attention in the developing countries due to its potential benefit for energy generation and reducing waste volume that we have to manage ultimately. It's interesting, according to the studies of Tosi and others, Nigeria, which is ranked as a low capital income country, with an average of municipal solid waste generation rate of between 0.4 to 0.5 kilograms per capacity per day. Of course, the country is projected to produce about 100,000 tons of these per day in the urban waste generation rate of at the urban waste generation rate of 0.8 kg capacity per day by 2025. So that is work in progress. It means that today, all hope is not lost for Africa, and all hope is not lost for Nigeria. We still have a room to do a catch-up. And why do we need to do this catch-up? There are key drivers. The climate change impact, of course, is one of the key drivers. Today, with the effect of rising global temperature and alarming levels of CO2 concentrations that are being measured around the environment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, mentioned about black suits. Most of us that live in River State are very familiar with that phenomenon, which have been with us for some years now. And of course, you begin to imagine that this climate change drive is becoming a very serious business globally. In fact, most businesses and most investors today will ask you for your plan as a businessman, as an operator. What is your plan in ensuring that your business is run in tandem with meeting the global goal of arresting this climate change problem or global warming phenomenon? Land constraint is another issue that drives this, the need for us to evolve into this waste-to-energy plan. The waste-to-energy initiative can help to reduce waste volume, as I mentioned, by volume and mass by a ratio of 75 to 90% of the initial waste volume and mass. So you can imagine that when we take truckload of solid waste like drill cuttings and other kinds of materials, to these generating facilities, at the end of the day, what comes out is a pitiable mass that you can easily manage. Another key driver is the public health and environmental concerns. I remember some years back when I was in the private sector, okay, I'm still in the private sector, but I'm a different employer. Some years back, we had to do some work in Akwa Ibom State. Interestingly, it was supposed to be a waste management facility. I tell you that 20 years down the line, after we initiated that effort, that project has not taken off. Why? There is this social apathy, it's not my backyard. Is it waste that we want to put in my backyard? Why are the manufacturing and producing companies and industries, are they not good enough for my place? However, public health concern, because today, with the increasing population growth, with the rising global temperatures, we are seeing phenomena that were not existing some 30, 50, 60 years ago. And this, for instance, like the melting Arctic region, the rising sea levels, we see flooding cases here and there, whether in Europe, in America, and all over the world. These are things, even in Nigeria, in Rivers State we have them, in Lagos we have them, all over the globe. These are phenomena that will not be completely isolated or disconnected from this phenomenon called global warming. Energy generation is also a major driver. As I've mentioned today, globally, there is a massive energy deficit. Energy deficit in the sense that if you look at the amount of power required by Nigeria to meet every household needs and what is being generated, distributed, and sold, it's a far cry. So what happens? How do we bridge the valley, this gully, between the needs and the available resources? So this is the impetus why we need to look beyond the contemporary or natural fossil fuel like oil and gas. Gas, by the way, will still continue to be very relevant. However, there is a gradual shift from what is called oil. Oil, don't get me wrong, will still be there. It will still be there because whatever plans you have to achieve in terms of climate change, global warming, renewable energies, you need money to actualize this. And you can only fund this by sustaining current efforts and getting the desired resources to meeting these needs. So, as I mentioned, with all these key drivers, it becomes very imperative that we as Nigerians, we as global citizens, have to think outside the box. And why is it why am I particular about it? We're in an environment of learning, where researches are being conducted every day now and then. I think that this is a clarion call for everyone and all key stakeholders to rise up to this occasion. While we strive to explore these new technologies, there are considerations that need to be taken into account while looking at this. And what first of it has to do with the preliminary considerations that we need to take into account. We need to ensure that we conduct basic studies and investigation to see the suitability of this technology to our need. More importantly, what resources we want to use to fuel this project. This project and initiative. And of course, technical consideration, enabling conditions. Earlier on was saying that, do we have the requisite regulatory framework to drive this? Do we have the requisite policy drive, whether energy policy, whether environmental policies, and the political will to drive these initiatives, so that we, like every other countries, as Nigerians, can benefit from these initiatives. More importantly, we must, in our process of trying to get the basic consideration for such a project, consider its key stakeholders. If you don't consult any key stakeholder in trying to cite this, as I mentioned earlier, no, everybody, one of the earlier speakers mentioned that everybody is guiding his waste, whether it's sewage, whether it's domestic waste, or it's other industrial waste, everybody is jealously guarding their waste. Why? For all kinds of reasons. People sell waste these days. People sell waste, but of course, most of us are familiar with the waste to wealth initiatives in Nigeria. These are all drives to help to manage our waste, which is becoming alarming. Our chairman, while making his opening remark, noted the fact that our seas are replete with all kinds of waste. Is it our drains? They are all blocked, so we can't have free flow of water. And what is the consequence? Flooding and other associated issues. Not only from the physical point, from health perspective, they provide breeding ground for mosquitoes and all kinds of things, and then we begin to have cases, even water, the pollution, and other things that can impair our wellness. So I would like to say that there are three main pathways for the conversion of this waste into energy. From research and studies, it shows that we can achieve this through thermochemical conversion, where we use high temperature and manage this waste to break them down. I mentioned earlier the issue of incinerator, which are used widely today to manage most of the waste. Pyrolysis and gasification, these are all part of that thermal conversion process. And of course, the biochemical conversion, which involves anaerobic digestion and fermentation. Of course, these are preferred for waste that have high percentage of organic biodegradables. And then, of course, moisture content as well, which impacts the efficiency of the plant that you use. And that underscores the type of technology we need to patronize in advancing this cause. The last one has to do with the physicochemical conversion, which involve processes to improve both the physical and chemical properties of this waste. And of course, the combustible fraction of this waste is then harnessed and converted to energy resource. I will quickly move on to the challenges that we foresee going forward. There are many major challenges that were highlighted in course of our research on this subject, especially with regards to developing countries. This has to do with waste characteristics. As we know, there are the moisture content and the nature of the waste has a role to play in actualizing or helping us realize this goal of managing or converting our waste to energy. And of course, it's been reported that this organic waste makes up about 53% to 56% of the municipal solid waste in the low and middle income countries and yield low calorific value. And Nigeria, of course, falls within that bracket of these low to middle income countries, sadly. So what is the major challenge there will now be finding technology that can handle the characteristics of waste that we have predominantly in our environment. The other aspect has to do with the economic aspect, because these technologies are not cheap. They require significant investment to start them up, to break them, and to carry out due maintenance, whether daily, weekly, or monthly, as the case may be. So lack of funding would be a major hindrance or challenge in setting up these, exploring this technology. And this is where the government needs to come in providing requisite incentives to willing and interested parties, both private and public. The other has to do with the legal aspect. In developing countries, mostly the infrastructure, the legislative framework to managing such internationally recognized businesses and standards may be lacking or in their infantile stages. Of course, that also brings to mind the fact that if you look at Nigeria today, the main agencies managing our environment, Federal Ministry of Environment, of course, we also, for the oil and gas, we have DPRO and then the NESRA and other agencies that manage this space, political space called Nigeria, in terms of environment. We also have the Ministry of Power and Energies, as the case may be, even in the, both at the federal and at the state level. So it is important for us to note that there are legal implications. Legal frameworks are needed, policies, frameworks are needed to enable us achieve and further this discourse. And of course, not forgetting the fact that there are rigorous monitoring requirements when you are operating such incineration and other related facilities. Of course, do we have the political will to implement these and enforce these laws as the case may be? One of the environmental aspects, we talked about waste incinerators being one of the leading sources of dioxins and furans globally. And it's important to note that any mismanagement of such plants may produce unsafe emissions. And these are why it is important that for us to advance as a nation in this discourse, there is the need for us to have relevant structures, both at the government level, at private level, institutional level, to further this discourse. And the social impact, of course, I mentioned earlier the story of what I experienced in Harcourt regarding public opposition to such facilities, because we not advance there. Take it elsewhere, we won't take our waste there. So where is on own, which at this case is not owned by somebody. So it is important that all these stakeholders are mindful and brought and carried along as we progress in this discourse. So, what are the key recommendations for us to go forward? As I mentioned earlier, there is a strong need for us to establish and operate these waste-to-energy facilities in managing our municipal solid waste in Nigeria. It's happening in other climes. It's happening in other worlds. I think Nigeria is not an exception. There is also the need to provide enabling policies and regulations, as well as supportive legal and institutional framework to advance this discourse. What about awareness, enlightenment of the populace, of the population? It is important to note that the behavior, the socio-economic level of development or exposure of people is very important to have and run successfully a system of waste management that is sustainable. Why do I say that? It is surprising that we generate waste, we pack them in bags or in their containers or receptacles as it were, and we take it to some places called designated waste dump site. Ask where? Road curbs. Middle of the road, side of the road, somebody's backyard, and the likes. Some people even will cook or kill rats and throw it on the street. Or better still, wait for rain. When it's raining, empty their bins into the drain. So there is enough need for us to embark on a serious awareness and enlightenment of the population. What about improving our waste collection system? We need to have better waste management process. Why? I remember in Port Harcourt, some good old days, when we had the governor called Oyakilome. Waste management was transformed because we had designated waste management facilities placed at strategic points, not at the road caps, such that people can go and dump their waste in, not on the floor, on the ground, on the road, where you will need the second set of workers to come and gather back and take away. So at the end of the day, we see that it is important for us to have institutional review, improving our waste collection, because this kind of industry is not in alliance with a system that encourages low waste collection efficiency. We need to improve funding for waste management, because until we begin to see waste as a resource rather than a liability and a burden, perhaps that attitude might not change. But I think this forum offers that opportunity to carry out this message to relevant stakeholders, the government, both the private and public sector, to improve our waste management process or practices by increasing and improving the funding. What about institutional collaboration between key governmental agencies? What is very prevalent in the industry today or in the country is the multiplicity of agencies, everybody chasing one subject, and at the end of the day, it's all of us and nobody is managing it. So I think that the need for us to have this institutional collaboration, whether on environment, whether on energy, in the academia, to synergize our energies and resources towards improving waste management. And by so doing, also drive the climate change discourse. And of course, we need to have a review quickly of relevant policies on climate, environment, and waste management as it were, so that, and public health, by the way, so that at the end of the day, we will say, yes, Nigeria is having a chunk of this part called waste to energy. In conclusion, I want to say that an environmentally sound and techno-economically viable methodology to treat waste is highly crucial for the sustainability of modern society and mankind, as it were. Because if we don't do that today, with the increasing population pressure, with the rising global climate, and the heaps of waste that is being generated, mind you, the earth, the world, the earth has a finite capacity to manage and assimilate this waste at the rate that we are generating this. How do we bridge this gap? How do we align our problem of waste management, climate change, and global warming, and meeting our global energy and health needs? And the solution, I would say, lies in exploring new frontiers like the Waste to Energy initiative. The African region is well poised for waste to energy development, with plentiful availability of waste to energy feedstock in the form of municipal solid waste, crop residues, and other agro-industrial waste. The implementation of advanced waste to energy conversion technologies as a method for safe disposal of solid waste and liquid waste, as it were, is an attractive option to generate power, to generate fuel, to generate heat, to reduce the case of climate change, improve our air quality, and improve our wellness by ensuring that environmental impact, health impact are reduced to the barest minimum. So on that note, I welcome us to this current call to embrace the Waste to Energy initiative. I want to say on the final note that as we progress on this conference, I want to wish us a very fruitful deliberation, and hoping that at the end of the day, we will have very useful conversation and, of course, ideas that can move Nigeria to the next step. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. May we applaud him once again. Mr. Opakit Braid has been talking to us for about 30 minutes now on the subject of transforming waste to renewable energy, an approach to sustainable living. Before we go on to talk about that keynote speech, let me quickly recognize the Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Governmental Engineers, who have joined us, Engineer Dr. Ruben N. Oparama. Vice Chairman, sir, let me at this time request that the Head Department of Governmental Engineering, University of Calabar, Engineering Council, can you come over to Thank you very much. I think that was a beautiful presentation by Mr. Braid. He has talked about how waste can be transformed to energy and technologies available. He talked about various pathways. He talked about the thermochemical pathway. He talked about the biochemical pathway. He talked about the physical-chemical pathway. There are various technologies available. And by the way, I don't know how many of us know that there is a concept of zero waste, and there are countries that are actually running on zero waste. As a matter of fact, a country like Sweden today imports waste from other countries. In fact, Sweden has finished using its own waste in its own place and goes out of its own country to ask other people to send waste to them. I think we are on our way there. Please put your hands together once again for. On the effect of that, we will take one or two questions in case there are areas that, some great areas you need enlightenment. As our keynote speaker is here, I believe you're more than willing to throw some more light on any great area. Do we have some questions, please? One or two? Or we need to understand this presentation.
Opakit Braid for the wonderful presentation. I noticed that your presentation stressed a lot more on thermal conversion of waste. And one of the things we observed in our waste around here in Nigeria is we still have more of the organic fraction of the waste, which is really wet. So it's at the moment not a very viable option for thermal conversion. So that's why some of us are rather proposing anaerobic digestion so that we are able to utilize even the moisture within the waste. So I think that's just a contribution and not really a waste.
Thank you. Do I have another one so I can address my temper?
The keynote speaker for this wonderful presentation. I just want to quickly make a comment on the recommendations. You talked about creating awareness of the populace. And when I saw that, while I felt that, well, that is okay, but the major people who actually need awareness, those who have the capacity to generate the political will to go into the waste to energy project are actually, I don't know whether to say that they are not aware or they are just simply keeping silent over something that they know that is actually the key thing now globally. I'm talking about the government and the multinational companies. Because no matter how you educate the general public, the only people who can initiate this thing and drive it are these two categories of people. The multinational companies, the total energy from where our keynote speaker comes from, and then the government. So my question is, why are they not taking the initiative Because it is only when they take that initiative that the general populace can then key in. And probably maybe one or two organizations can begin to go into private, even at a small scale, of generating that energy to even light small farms and small neighborhoods. Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you, sir, for your all-encompassing lecture. But I would like to know, on the basis that you are coming from the industry, I want to know the place of these industries in trying to drive us towards this path of waste to wealth. Thank you, sir.
On the last question, with respect to where the industry is in terms of this initiative, our business first is to produce oil and gas. Now, in doing so, we are at the forefront of this climate change drive or challenge. If you follow the France, the Accord, and the Accord in France, and then other initiatives around this subject, you will see that a lot of operators are committed and have already keyed in. As operator, what are the wastes that I generate? Because the charity begins at home. Now, what it means is that for me, prior to this time, a lot of gas is in flare. Total, I would say, today, I've taken steps to eliminate routine flaring on its operational side. And that is in tandem with this global climate change challenge on one hand. On the other hand, the gas that would have gone out in form of flared gas or in form of operational waste, where I would say we have leaks and all the rest of that, we are taking measures to optimize our operations. We've set up rigorous and robust monitoring processes, even preventive and corrective maintenance inspection regimes to ensure that our operations and facilities are top-notch. That's not to leave out the fact that on most of our facilities that have been existing in the past today, they are undergoing upgrades. Why? Because the technology that existed some 60, 50, 40 years back, they no longer fit into this catch of being sustainable, being eco-friendly. And to demonstrate that, that is why our name has changed from Total Exploration and Production to Total Energies. What it means, if you move around Nigeria, most of the Total filling stations use solar light. Why? We are addressing the issue of carbon release and other methane gas release. Not only that, in our operations, in our facilities as it were, there is this what we call carbon footprint reduction initiatives and projects that are implemented. All of it is geared towards ensuring that we increasingly improve the efficiency of our operating systems, and that, to a large extent, we think is our contribution on one hand. On the other hand, we partner with various regulatory agencies and stakeholders, if not just here, World Bank and other key players in this domain, to ensuring that we not only finance, but promote or support, just as we try to identify with this initiative that is being organized here. to ensure that at the end of the day, Total is fully committed to meeting and contributing to managing and reducing waste. Waste, whether gaseous or solid waste, whichever waste as it were. In my presentation, I mentioned to you, the issue of patronizing third-party facilities to manage all our major waste. After we cannot prevent it, we minimize the waste, we recycle, we reduce, and all kinds. At the end of the day, the next level today is to partner with these service providers who already have this technology and check. Are those technologies really still adaptable for meeting the standards today in the world need in meeting our global challenge objectives or targets? And I make boast to say that Total published that by 2020, and the total group forward. So that extent, we are working assiduously to ensure that we. Thank you. And then to the second guy, yes, please forgive me, I missed your point. Sorry, I think you know, yes. Yeah, your question on what we are doing or something? Thank you. All right. In my presentation, I also mentioned the need for institutional cooperation. No man is an island. I know, as from the industry, we have a forum called the OPTS, that is Oil Producers Trade Section, under the Governmental Chamber of Commerce, and so on. The umbrella body for most of the operating IOCs as it were. But what is interesting is that I also pointed out that the government, because they are the key operators and stakeholders, are the people. Why I brought in people is in the area of waste collection and disposal. If we have a fantastic system in place and the people don't change the attitude of dumping by the roadside of the gutter when it rains and all the rest, you will still be in the same pattern whereby, okay, I hear of I had people discuss or see some people take their refuge to the dump site. Instead of leaving it in that 1 naira to 10 naira per day, they empty it on the river or wherever it is and go back to the water flow. So at the end of the day, you move waste from one point to the other. Wind, rodents, animals, and all kinds feast on it. People scavenger, litter the entire place, and the city is not better off for that kind of practice. So it's not out of place to also target that catch of population while concentrating on the government as key policy makers now go to play. Amanda, thank you for your point. It's well noted. I also mentioned that not only in Tamu, we have organization in Nairobi. So it's open for the us to explore whichever is adaptable to our local condition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please let's appreciate Mr. Pakistan. By the way, Mr. Pakistan is the Deputy General Manager, HSC Corporate at Total Energy EMB Nigeria Limited. Put your hands together, everyone. Thank you so much. Before I invite the Vice Chancellor here represented to make brief remarks, let me welcome the Central Leader of World Bank Center, U.S. of Harcourt, Professor Municipal, to make a few remarks.
Thank you very much. I highly recognize the Municipal represented other members here. Just to say, I don't work with the Central Bank, the World Bank. I am a teacher. Anyway, I want to thank Mr. Perez for quite elaborate lecture, very detailed professional, and straight to the point. Just to make a point that we need to change our, there should be a paradigm shift. For me, what we are talking about is not waste. Because when you say waste, people look at it as something that is not useful. In fact, he makes a remark at the conclusion. These are resources looking for markets. And when you go to somebody's backyard and say, I'm bringing you money, you'll be happy. But when they had this impression that you are bringing waste, and that was an impression I had when the Indians first came, when we were going west here and there, and they landed in Lagos, they said, this is money. This is also money. This is money. And so, my colleagues and their professionals, we are talking of a resource waiting for conversion for wealth. And when you have that idea, we start treating these things as essential commodities. Let me say this. I'm a professor of petroleum engineering, and every company is going about changing their names to energy companies. That's not the problem. When you look at the statistics of carbon emission, the percentage from gas emission is very minimal. The greatest percentage, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, is from agriculture. When you think about bush burning, when you think about building the wood you fall to make your houses, when you think about the waste, the emission that is going on every day, you realize that what we are talking today is critical. For me, it's not about gas emission from gas flaring. That's fine. Go to Aba, they are not producing oil and gas. But the huge amount of waste that is generated. Go to the villages and see the bushes that are being bought anytime they want to go into agri. The kind of carbon emission, that's huge. So what we are talking today is start to look at efficiency in everything we do. And by the way, what differentiates efficient organization and non-efficient organization is the level of waste they generate. A country like Sweden we are talking about, what makes them a global player in the level of efficiency is that they generate little or no waste. But Nigeria, everything we do is waste. And that's why we are not making progress. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that if you ask me, I would say transforming money to money, not waste. So when we go out and we're talking about this product called waste, let's talk about in terms of the value we could get, in terms of the gas we could generate, in terms of conservation of carbon emission we can get, and start looking at everything we do. And so I just wanted to thank him and thank you for this conference, and to say that we are surrounded with opportunities of great wealth. And when you see this waste around you, start thinking in terms of what can I do to bring money out of it. And if you think that way, you discover that people will go out for waste. Once again, thank you. I want to appreciate the other lecture and wish that we go and think about not just changing the name from the petroleum part of what they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Centrally that World Bank. When you have World Bank, anything, World Bank, in our bank, it's money now. After this session, all of us will meet Prof, and then we'll make World Bank arrangements. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to, well, let me say that we're coming to the end of this session, at the opening ceremony. At this point, we will take goodwill messages. We'll take from the NSC chairman, presented by Engineer Dr. Achimenu and Amadi. My chairman.
Ladies and gentlemen, please standing on the existing protocol. This is a goodwill message from Engineer Tunde John Otwene, MNSC Chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Port Harcourt Branch. The Executive Committee and members of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Port Harcourt Branch, felicitate with the Executive Committee and members of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, Port Harcourt Chapter, on her conference and annual general meeting. The theme of this year's conference, Transforming Solid Waste to Renewable Energy, is apt, considering the electricity supply challenges we face in this part of the world, and looking at the amount of waste that is generated and thrown away, which can actually be transformed to energy. Solid waste is all around us in Port Harcourt and its environs. They should be looked at and how they can be transformed to renewable energy. The process of converting solid waste to renewable energy will create a value chain which will result to waste to wealth. I think that should actually mean which will result to wealth. I urge the division to synergize with the Ministry of Environment on how the theme of this conference can be actualized. The Nigerian Society of Engineers Port Harcourt Branch wish the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers Port Harcourt Chapter fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my chairman. Please put your hands together. That's the chairman of NIEE Port Harcourt Branch. Thank you so much. When I look around and I see the number of persons in the hall now, my chairman, I believe that your impression has changed, that the organizers were not selfish. You know, originally you have said they were selfish. They wanted to enjoy the goodies alone. But now the hall is filling the capacity. Thank you so much. I got to recognize one of our own, engineer Dr. A.G.K. Ugoha, who is the Deputy Director of the Center for Occupational Health Safety and Environment.
Once again, I stand on the existing protocol. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to give this goodwill message because of the importance attached to the environment. By the way, I represent the National Register of Environmental Professionals in the US, in Africa. I wanted to be a medical doctor, but I took JAM 2 times and I didn't meet up the cutoff point. Why I'm saying this is it was when I became an environmental professional, I knew that if you practice environmental issues well, you are doing more work than a doctor. What I found out that epicenter behind most of the safety and health issues comes from a poor environmental management. For instance, slip and fall. You didn't take care of the floor. Malaria. What causes malaria? I'm asking. Poor environment. And that's why you see these companies that have taken care of the environment. They have minimal health and safety issues. You dump waste in a land, you go and buy a land, use skyscrapers. The water you are drinking there is polluted. The stomachache goods. You start visiting the hospital. If you never drank water from a polluted site, you won't have that problem. So ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying is, let us give this environmental practice the consideration it deserves. More so from an engineer at the point of view. Who is an engineer? An engineer is one who applies the science and converts problems to the usefulness and check problems. And for me, what I learned from this, the theme of the conference, that we are blessed with waste. I told a young man who came from the United States that Nigeria is blessed with problems. Why? When you solve these problems, it puts you to a corner where you become wealthy. So my charge is that as you go home, don't look at this waste as something that has come to destroy us. Let's see them as an opportunity to help humanity and make the world a better place. Once again, I want to thank you and wish we go home and practice our profession. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kwan, Center Leader, World Bank Center, University of Port Harcourt. Thank you so much. Please, let's applaud him once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to draw our attention to page 13 of our proceedings, program of activities. I'd like to draw attention to that page. You know, when we're talking about who an engineer is, you know, I tell my students that God handed over the world to engineers. My visit, with due permission, sir. You know, after God created and ended, it was engineers they told to go and continue to create. Because engineers are the ones that are in the business of creation. You know, so when I now look at what the environmental engineers are doing, I begin to see the environmental engineer as the engineer's engineer. Because all the things that other people have thrown away, those are things that we are grappling with here, using to make sense out of it. Please put your hands together for the environmental engineer. I'd like to tell us that after this opening ceremony, we will now go into technical sessions. And that is the time that you need to be here and be more attentive to the proceedings. We're going to have topics like characterization and evaluation of the energy content of domestic waste. This waste we're talking about. Why are we talking about it? My chairman and his colleague will tell us about that. We're going to look at the behavior of dump site leaching when introduced into a soil medium. We're going to look at dump site management in River State. How well? We're going to appraise it. We're going to look at municipal solid waste management in Port Harcourt, the need for waste to energy, and so many other topics we'll look at. So ensure that you don't miss it. Be part of it as I respectfully invite the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Municipal Gogule, here represented by Professor Eric Amadi, Director of Quality Assurance of River State University.
Thank you so much. The Chairman of Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, Engineer Dr. the Center Leader, World Bank Center of Excellence, Engineer Professor Bona Joel, immediate past Chairman of NIEE, Chapter, our own Engineer Professor MGR Governmental, the renowned foreign analyst, one that is revered amongst us, has PhD, one who won't allow won't dare miss, because in the university ranking, if you look your high ranking index and high time scholars, you go down in ranking status. So we'd like to stay and we'd like to also respect our professor here, what he's doing for us. The Vice Chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, here represented as well, and Total Energy Nigeria, and all of Africa. Great. Head of Department of Agricultural and Environmental Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, my own brother, Engineer Professor Salas Kane. Also told that the Vice Chairman, my own brother, Ruben, State Coordinator, Federal Resource Safety, Marshal, Hope is there, a not the same. Okay, thank you for coming. That is Mr. Theophilus to tell you that 2 days ago, your corps commander, Martin, Alibaba, was invited law, and he likes the presence of showing the society now. The plan is to make sure our roads are demarcated. Also, personal hotels are also shown a child. We want to go to the person of you are born. Indeed, the vice chancellor would have loved to be with you, but he called me even if I came here, and even when he called me back here, every platform phone to ask me for my representative. He would have loved to be here because the vice chancellor of the year is going to want to government leadership, and so doing his job, he likes to spread. Demystify national scholarship. So, because he loves you, and ask that you come and represent him and show his better skills. Representative University was established in 1980, and then it was the University of Science and Technology. But today, we are not a Representative University. It doesn't mean that we are destined the technology and science and engineering. We are still part of our dossier. And so, graduates is happy with this workshop. Indeed, that would elite me the preponderance of workshops going on in the university and university. On Wednesday, even the management meeting, 10 o'clock, the commission, the work on international national conference, the engineering. That's the Wednesday, 2 days ago, this same call, national conference that's part of education. And today is another national workshop happening in the university. But I think that he's excited because that means those that think that are visible online, so that things that keep you very happy. Your team, whether it is waste management or dump site, anything, is very hard. It's very hard because every living thing there is. I didn't say human being, big animals. I did plants. Plants are ready with it. But especially your thinking centers on transforming money into renewable energy. Indeed, you need to know how much it spends on only this one. Indeed, because this is aside from ever. It goes to the rate of $19 million every month. And so, if these new paradigms, this new generation is brought into play, the value change, converting waste into energy is what is so great. But it's not happy to see it materialize. And so he always means to tell that I moderate the community, instead of your technical workshops, technical sections today, please chart a way forward. Since you said that after considering the work, and then work over to engineers, tell God that indeed, what I deliver to you, you are ready to renew. Finally, we are starting to wish you happy elections to your agent. In doing so, we want you to, for example, the elections, teach the outside world how elections are done. And that when you do that, you would have accentuated what is written in the national anthem, verse verse, where you say, "O God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our little right, help our youth, and the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow, and living just and true. Great love, move that word lofty, great heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice sharing." Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Put your hands up, Vice Chancellor. Now, this program will soon end, this opening ceremony. I'd like to let us know that immediately we'll end this session. We will have 5 minutes break, thereabout, before the commencement of the technical sessions. During the 5-minute break, at the high table move out, we will have group photographs. And of course, high table with the higher table. You know, these are the higher now.
Yes, they are higher.
Okay, so I'd like to invite the NIEE chairman for his closing remarks.
So on behalf of the Grand Chairman, the Staff of Engineers for Harcourt, Engineer Tunte John, Otwene to say that it is gratifying to see us here participate actively in this opening ceremony. The chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, will be looking forward to very fruitful results coming as a result of the technical section of this conference. It is the hope of the branch chairman that with such fruitful deliberations, some beautiful results will actually come from this year's annual conference of the NIEE. I want to say that at this point is the close of the opening ceremony. Wishing you beautiful deliberations in the technical section. Thank you very much.
Thank you, At this time, we've come to the end of this session. I request that we rise up as I invite Engineer Professor MJ to give us the closing prayer.
Before we pray, before we take our prayers, the district representative here, Professor Eric Amadi, said a few things, especially relating to the fact that much resources is being used for using this for providing energy in the River State University. I want to quickly add that I want to thank the district for being here, represented by you. But to quickly add that the Vice Chancellor is very interested in resolving this matter. I'm saying this so that the students can know that I'm very interested in reducing as much as possible using municipal solid waste that they're not discussing here, using it properly, the waste that is scattered all over the Harcourt especially, converting them into very usable, what we call solid waste. That's why you see they're solid waste. Because of time, I don't want to say much about that. We're just looking at time and not that it. But I want to, because of what he said, and because of the interest of the Vice Chancellor, which I know very well, we should bear that in mind, that in the future, when this university begins to take this waste and convert them into usable energy, students, especially of this university, and everybody here should not be surprised. So on that note, let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for this conference that has been described by everyone as very apt. We thank you because from here, just like you have just said, that much of our way that has scattered all over the place, especially in Port Harcourt, shall be used for the development of this university especially, and even that of University of Port Harcourt in Jesus' name. Amen. Father, we want you to give us the wisdom. We want you to give us we that are here when we are called upon to do this. From we here on the high table and everyone gathered, including our students. Father, we shall do everything possible to bring about that technology to happen in our high institutions, in River State, especially in Jesus' name. Amen. Father, as we briefly need to come back for the plenary sessions, we pray that you go with us. Thank you for everyone here, especially our dear Vice Chancellor and all the dignitaries that are seated here, our guest speaker from Total Energies, and everyone who has come
to be with us in this third annual conference and AGM of Nigerian Institute of Governmental Intelligence. That go with us to our various destinations and bring us back next year, possibly for you happy reports about this time. We'll have this same conference so that we can expand the frontier of knowledge, starting from this Port Harcourt and enveloping all of Nigeria. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much.
I saw him in when I went
Ben, you and Manuel are still now. Join them. Let them get you adaptable.
Okay. Wait, I want to go back chairman of. Have you been in that business?
Can you come to the front seat? If you present as we invite you to come to the front seat. Thank you. Let me just quickly note that the presentations will be made in the order of recognition. The next paper we have here is by Untitled S.A., Ayotamino N.J., and Udom I.J. As we invite you, please, as call your name, come to the front seat, take the front row. Untitled S.A., Ayotamino N.J., Professor Lewis, and then Udom I.J. If you are here, come to the front row. Raphael B. Jogo and EBAD Amakabia. Then we'll have the need for waste to technology by our own chairman, the solicitor, Engineer Dr. John N. Ubebo. Then we'll have estimated energy content and characterization of municipal solid waste using solar plates. Ishmael Onungwe, Dexter D.L. Tom, and I am Jefferson. Please take the front row. We have the renewable energy potential of solid waste in Nigeria in view by Dr. Sobreko E. Ajisimama. Then we have transforming solid waste to renewable energy, a case for legislation to empower local government areas in Nigeria. That is by Ajagabuka and Abiba Grace. We have impact of poor solid waste management on soil in rural areas, a case study of Market Road, Bonnet Island, River State. We have Aseminaso E.A., Austin E.E., Oyibohoro R., Abumere E., and Udeme A.P. Please, can they come to the front row? We have the use of recycled aggregate concrete as a sustainable waste management strategy in Nigeria. That will be presented by Anya Tebu, Chief Waiter, Oyemuchi, Chief Waiter, Masai. Please come to the front. All presenters will come and take their seats in the front room as we invite them. Then we have design of small-scale biogas production. 1CHA and Intescat UB. We have remediation potential of wastewater treatment residues, RON of Barama, FT of Rita, and E. Uko Onoda. The next paper, land application of pretreated oil-based tree cuttings, human health risk of thermal exposure to benzoylpyrene by Emanuela A. Agurum, Ruben Okwarama, and Josiah M. Ayotamono. Municipal solid waste management in Port Harcourt, the need for waste to energy technology.
Because I checked the program, it's
So that's the definition of soil by Okorafo, O.O., Juan Kuba, N.R., Chikwe M.I., and Matthew M. I take for granted that all our speakers are around. This session, because of time, speakers will be limited to 7 minutes of presentation. I'd like you to bear with us. We have a lot of presentations to make. 7 minutes of presentation, and then at the end of presentation, we will take questions generally at the end of all the presentations because of time. So I like us to bear with ourselves. Thank you so much. So, technical crew, have we said? Okay. At this point, I'd like to invite our first presenter, Ude NU, to take the stage. Please, let's put our hands together for her.
My name is Engineer Dr. Ngozi Ude from Civil and Environmental Engineering, University of Harcourt. I'm here to present a technical paper on characterization and evaluation of energy content of domestic solid waste. By this paper, we are trying to show the practical form of what the keynote speaker has said on the different ways we can get enough energy from our solid waste. Now, the aim of this presentation, the aim of this research is to characterize and estimate the energy content of municipal solid waste generated from students' lodge at Konga village in a local health community of Obiako local government area. So one of the ways to manage solid waste is through waste to energy recovery. And processes like incineration, pyrolysis, gasification, landfill gas recovery, and refuse-deriving fuel can be used to achieve this. Thus, energy content or the calorific value of the solid waste is evaluated to determine its feasibility of energy recovery. Now, energy content can be defined as the number of heat units involved when unit mass of material is completely burned. It is measured in joules per gram or in British thermal units per pound. However, energy content of solid waste is a function of physical composition of the waste, the moisture content, and the ash content, and can be determined using experimental and empirical approaches. So, for this research, we focus more on the empirical approach. So, for empirical approach used for determining of energy content of the waste, there are 3 models used to predict energy content value, and they are based on this analysis. They are based on the physical composition analysis, the ultimate analysis, and the proximate analysis. Now, under the physical composition analysis, it involves the characterization of the solid waste materials into different components of the solid waste metrics, such as reusable, plastics, metals, glass, textiles, and paper, and others. Then the ultimate analysis of waste involves the examination of the carbon, the oxygen, the nitrogen, and the sulfur content of the solid waste. While the proximate analysis involves the examination of the moisture content, the volatile combustible matter, and the fixed carbon and ash. Now, for this very research, the materials and method, the study was conducted at Konga Village Lodge in a local community of Obiako local government. This lodge is where the students stay, and it has about 30 self-contained rooms with about 24 persons living in the lodge. Now, the sampling procedure employed by this study was source-specific quantification and characterization, where the solid waste were collected from the individual homes for a period of 7 days. And at the end of the 7 days, the waste samples were manually sorted, weighed, and and recorded into different components of the waste according to the composition of the profile shown in table 1. And these are the different composition of the waste within this students' lodge where they stay and produce waste. So we have the producible, the plastics, the metals, the glass, textiles, paper, and miscellaneous. So now, we calculated the per capita waste generated by these students. What is the per capita waste generated by each of them? And we use this formula to calculate the per capita waste, in where we have the WG equaling MT over GT divided by MP, and they are all explained. We also calculated the density of the waste generated using the typical density of solid waste by Cinero and the Cinero 2006, while the volume of the waste was determined by weighing each category of the sorted waste bag and then dividing the waste by the typical density of the waste given in the equation 2. So this equation 2, is used to calculate the typical volume of the waste. Now, the energy content of this waste was also determined using the model developed by Kahn and Abu, which was based on the physical composition of the waste. And this is given by the equation 3, where we see the energy content. Now, the results, the solid waste generated, rate from this lodge of 64 persons was calculated as 131 kilogram, and the daily generation rate was calculated as 0.2924 kilogram per capita per day. And the result of the physical composition of the waste is shown in figure 1. Then the energy content of the waste was calculated using that equation 3, and we got it to be 87.96331 kilojoules per kilogram. And these are the composition of the waste. You see that the producible is now more, followed by other ones. So what we are trying to say that waste as little as those generated by students, just the little quantity of waste, we were able to characterize and estimate their energy content. And we were able to see that the energy content of this waste is as much as 87.96331 kilograms per gauge, indicating that it has a high energy content from the waste. And this follows similar trend which has been studied by other people like Wango and Ama 2006. They got similar value. So what we are trying to say in essence that the energy, the waste we throw away, no matter how small it is, when you estimate it, you are going to see that it has enough energy content. Not to talk of when you now gather enough of our waste which we throw and litter all around. So this waste has enormous energy content, which when well managed can use to provide light, heat, and so many other things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. Please let's put our hands for Engineer Dr. Mrs. J. I'd like to encourage us to please take notes of whatever questions we have. We may not be able to take questions after each presentation. We'll take the questions at the end of the presentation, as the case may be. You will see that from what she has said, a time will come in this country when people will begin to quarrel and fight for waste to protect their own waste, so that all we need is a will on the side of government to begin to transform this waste.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Engineer Mrs. the Derefa Mafabia, as we just heard. And I'm going to be presenting the topic, dump site management in Rivers State. And I'm going to follow this outline. Okay, by way of introduction, this is the waste management hierarchy. So you see up there, prevention, it covers the most area because it's the most desirable component of waste management. And then it goes all the way down to disposal. So that is to tell us that waste disposal is a key component of any waste management system. It doesn't matter the type of waste actually. So these are some waste disposal methods. We have the first place there, open dumping, which is something we see a lot. But unfortunately, it is now the officially recognized receptacle in Port Harcourt. So you see your signpost, government designated receptacle, just a place on the roadside. And then the second one is a picture depicting dumping at sea. We have open burning that most of us also practice. And that beautiful dome there is a picture of a solid waste incinerator. I'm sure it has all the energy recovery facilities also installed, and you can see how beautiful it is, despite that it's handling waste. And then finally, the last slide is what should be a sanitary landfill. So if you talk about sanitary landfilling, that is what we should be expecting to see. So the aim of this study, first, we try to examine the existing dump sites and then see what facilities they have, what is their mode of operation, what is the level of skills the managers have, and then we try to put this side by side with the standard practices for this level. This study is trying to start with, at its ease, what can we do? We're not really looking at what is the big alternative. So what can we do to the one we are doing now to improve its condition? And so finally we make those recommendations. So just a brief description of Rivers State. It's a state that falls within the Niger Delta Basin. You know, it falls in the tropical rainforest zone. We have many dump sites by RWAMA. RWAMA is the agency, as we know, that regulates the functions of collection, called management, because collection and disposal is just some components, of management. So RWAMA regulates collection and disposal. So as of 2016, the licensed dump sites were the one at Igweche, Iguruta, Eliozu, and Oyibo. Yeah. So we visited these Eliozu and Iguruta dump sites were the ones that were classified as operational at the time. So we visited these two dump sites to see what happens there. And we saw that the kind of waste received, while Eliozu was just MSW, Iguruta was also having factory waste. This was the estimate given to us by the dump site managers of daily tipping. Although they noted that on sanitation days they have more than this amount in terms of tons of waste disposed per day. And then we also take note that the depth of those landfills, that's to say, the depth of the borrow pits that were used that were converted to those dump sites. Eliozu was 3 meters deep. Iguruta was 12 meters deep, and Eliozu had been operating as at that time for 8 years, while Iguruta was 5. And then we looked at what facilities they had on ground. Eliozu had two-way bridges, even though they were both bad as at that time. We were told that it was actually designed to be a semi-sanitary landfill that was to be operated by a private contractor, but it appeared that arrangement didn't hold in the end. So you saw some little features of what the landfill should have, but things went back to what was. So we saw some crawlers, some floodlights, personnel had some level of PPE, scavengers were the ones that were doing the major resource recovery at the site. They were fumigating 3 times a week, and they had on-site water supply. And then we saw, okay, we tried to ascertain the level of technical knowledge of the staff,
And this was the results we got for the level of education, the number of years of management experience for the managers, and then their relationship with their host communities, and the nature of the access roads to the dump sites. So what were the environmental concerns from those dump sites? First of all, despite the fumigation, we noticed that odor was still a major problem. There was poor aesthetics. In fact, at the Gruta site, as tall as I am, I would do like this. The waste was towering very high above me. And then on the other side of things, you saw a very big empty space full of water. You find out that instead of tipping far into the dump site, they were tipping close to the edge. But interestingly, studies that were carried out to assess the contaminants level of groundwater showed that it was just nutrients and oxygen demand that were above tolerable limits. They also noted that the groundwater within the vicinity was acidic, and as for soil contamination, there were conflicting reports with these people reporting what we see there. And then also another study by Ezekwe and Arokoyu showed that of the air quality parameters they tested, sulfur dioxide and particulate matter were way above permissible limits, which explains some of the other problems that they were getting. Okay, so we come to discussions. We classify these students' fields as controls, dump sites, as controls, just because of the definition that a controlled dump site is one that is licensed by government. So on the strength of that, and some of the features it has are as listed there, which we saw some of them on ground. So for us to improve those dump sites as they are now, we are proposing that there should be lining and leachate collection. Fortunately, we observed that the borrow pits had thick layers of clay. So I think in the news they told us they were up to 1 meter thick. So that could explain why the contaminants are not really traveling as much as we would have hypothesized. And then they introduce daily cover. They don't cover at all. If we look at this picture of what the sanitary landfill, at the end of the day, you see those sheets there. They are to cover the waste so that the aesthetics is taken care of and the incidence of odor and rodents are controlled. So we have proposed that there should be daily cover, and they should also have gas collection facilities so that they can control the incidence of dump site fires, and then define cells. So what we have in this picture is a cell. So that is it. In conclusion, we've said get your lining, get your gas collection facilities, use cells, stop collecting money from contractors to tip at the front of the dump sites instead of going inside, and try to cover the dump sites regularly. Thank you.
Chairman, Engineer Dr. John N. Overall, State.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. John Ugwewo, and let me just give you a little profile. I'm of Civil and Environmental Engineering Department, and I'm also the current Acting Director for Center for Occupational Health, Safety and Environment. I'm also the Chairman for Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, and I'm the National Coordinator of Federal Safety Special Marshal Team. I've been very busy on that because they are all organizing their workshops, so I came back from the workshop from Lagos yesterday. So we have this because of the importance of the team transforming solid waste, all type of solid waste, to waste to energy. In fact, I can gladly say that that's the global trend now. And what has taken Nigeria, I'm not trying to blame the government alone, every one of us out of this drive is just oil, free money, laziness, lack of foresight. We just want to make money without working for it. And we are messed up everywhere. You know, and that's why the level of unemployment is very high. These are utilities. In fact, this business alone can create a lot of jobs for our teeming youth who are graduating from the Nigerian university. Of course, we all know that our field today is a multidisciplinary field. The mechanical engineers can partner with us. The chemical engineers, the other engineers can partner with us in bringing local content to achieve what I'm going to talk about. Particularly my interest will be tailored to Port Harcourt. I'm not talking about Nigeria as it is. A lot of interesting things that should catch on. Port Harcourt will be one of the first cities that embraced waste to energy. Worldwide, waste to energy is beginning to gain grounds as one of the cleanest source of energy, acknowledged by the US EPA and even the UN. Municipal waste in Nigeria is still not put in use as energy source in many cities in Nigeria. Very surprising, and yet the thing litters virtually everywhere in our cities. So the municipal solid waste generation in many cities in Nigeria is a major concern to government. But they are worried that everywhere is littered, but nothing is really done about it. The challenge is increasing population. You know, the communities around the cities are not developed. Development is not spreading. Particularly in River State, it's not really spreading. If you live some 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers from Port Harcourt, you see that they don't have electricity, they don't have good water, they don't have good roads. And because of that, everybody is over-congesting in the Port Harcourt city. So Port Harcourt city has a current population of 3.7 million. These are at 2018 statistics. It's about 4 million now because it's growing. And that's just Port Harcourt. I'm not talking of other suburbs around Port Harcourt. This means more that municipal solid waste generation and more litters in the streets. I was passing through one of the streets, I almost shed tears. In fact, in the east-west road from University of Port Harcourt to Rumokoro is terrible. Right now, even OSPAC is trying to arrest some people who are dumping solid waste. All these scavengers are not also helping. These scavengers, we call them, or these waste pickers. Scatter the whole thing. Are they scavengers really? I can't call them scavengers. Those ones are terrible. They just scatter the waste, pick whatever. Scavengers are usually found in the dump site, but these ones are doing it right in the streets. And they are very, I don't know where they learn their own trade. And the pressure is more on most communities to do not have infrastructures, like I said earlier. Well, the problem associated with generation of solid waste is here, very clear. On aesthetic dump site, although my colleague has mentioned that, Dr. Mrs. Sude, when she was talking about it, drainage blockage and flash floods, and epidemic spread, poor tourism and global climate change. So we see these things, and we know that this is a major problem, and we don't want to solve it. We need to do solve it as professionals. Rewama is working very hard. We must agree, but they have no solution to it. As contractors, you see the young men working overnight, taking risk. Some of them are not even with their face mask, and they don't have any PPE, some coveralls and hand gloves, and I wonder how they survive. Those of us who are here, we are protecting ourselves, but I wonder how those, maybe they are special people. But the sad thing is that despite their efforts, the waste keep increasing, and it's as if they are doing nothing. So the environment is degraded, there is climatic, global change, and there are a lot of challenges around it. Purpose of good plan and technology, that's part of what we should be looking at as professionals. Well, when we manage this waste well, it will bring money. You heard Prof when he said, we will have money, it is money to generate money, that we shouldn't even call it waste. Because people have believed that waste are not useful. But in this case, we are thinking of waste to wealth. To generate money, boost energy generation in Port Harcourt, reduce problems of a conventional dumping of waste in borrow pits, and then help to reduce stress and public health issues and poor scavenging. Product generated from municipal solid waste, paper, vegetable, plastics, cellophanes, metals, organics, combustibles which can be turned into refuse, and then derived fuel for energy and inert byproduct for landfill. We don't even have landfill really. That's the problem, like the last speaker really said. Advanced countries, we can see I listed a few of them. Our speaker mentioned about Singapore, Korea, Japan, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Sweden, and Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, USA. These guys have gone into utilizing their waste, that in the streets you can hardly see waste. They have a buyback pattern that is helping them to get through that. Why Port Harcourt is one of the best fit cities in Nigeria to site waste to energy technology projects. That's what captured my interest. Port Harcourt is one of the most populated cities in Nigeria. I think the fourth after Lagos and Kano, maybe Oyo. I think we are more populated than Kaduna, and so we are best fit. We have oil companies that are generating waste. We have also manufacturing companies that are generating waste. So energy demand will increase also in Port Harcourt because of the fast increasing population. And then waste to energy technology will provide electricity for the fast growing city. That's why we need it. And reasons why Port Harcourt is proposed for waste to energy. Studies have shown that renewable energy will complement present energy by 10%. Urban cities generally generate high energy capacity waste with non-organic fractions. Study indicated that the average calorific value of municipal solid waste in Nigerian cities is about 17.23, and also average waste generation rate between 0.44 to 0.46 capacity per day. Today, Port Harcourt is known to be the fourth populated and urban city in Nigeria. Before I conclude, let me take just one slide. Yes, some advantages energy recovery municipal waste in Nigeria. It will reduce, like I say, fallow waste. If we go into energy recovery, in fact, we will be able to benefit. It will enhance energy recovery. It will lead to better income generation and employment. Waste collectors and pickers we have steady job with government or private sectors. Conclusion. If we lead to a robust and integrated waste management policy of waste generation, we need government to come up with a policy. I've not seen our House of Assembly here talking about waste as of particular interest. Waste to energy technology will result in production of refuse-derived fuel oil, pyrolysis, and gasification from organic and fossil-based carbonaceous waste materials. The dream of turning waste to wealth and energy benefits will be fulfilled. Recommendation: state government should legislate policies to stop burning waste and transferring waste. Look at our farms, we are still burning. Do you know, if you go to countries that even do real farming like Israel or that, they don't burn anything. They don't burn anything. So but we are here burning waste. Local technology should be encouraged under the Local Content Act to design waste to energy plant, which will turn the huge Port Harcourt generated waste to energy resource. Investors should be encouraged to invest in waste recovery for energy generation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my chairman. There is need for us to develop technology for the transformation of waste to...
I'm here to present a technical paper titled Estimating Energy Content and Characterization of Municipal Solid Waste Using Solar Link. And this is the content of our presentation, which I'm going to run through as we make progress. By introduction, solid waste management and disposal is a significant economic and environmental concern worldwide. However, municipal solid waste has promising recoverable energy content, which can be harnessed through characterization, because not every component of municipal solid waste has substantial recoverable energy. With the huge volume of waste generated in the country, in the presence of electric power supply, the time is right in harnessing energy from waste. And this is what brought us to trying to work within our modern campus in River State Polytechnic in Boro, which is now the 10th Sarajevo Polytechnic, to be able to pick or collect the waste from the receptacles which is within the campus. And these wastes were collected in sack bags. We're able to sort them out to enable us to characterize it using a software. And the software was developed based on Dulong's principle, and we had to follow the methodology as stated under a standard test method for determination of composition of unprocessed municipal solid waste. We were able to collect an average weight of 4 kg per each of the bags, which we used within a period of 3 weeks. And at the end of our exercise, because the heating value of this municipal solid waste has to be checked to see how they fit into the standard rating or requirement for which this waste can be converted into energy. We walked down with our results. This actually presents acceptable range of heat of combustion, which energy can be generated from waste. And so you can see the component, you can see yard waste, you can see wood, you can see food, you can see paper, you can see cardboard, you can see plastics, you can see textile, rubber, leather, and all of that And so we also moved that to looking at the moisture content, which we looked at from the acceptable range of the moisture content, and we went down to characterizing this waste. And you can see with one, we had food waste to be 0.47 kg. Happened for week 2, and similar thing happened for week 3. At the end of the process, this is how we imputed the values into our characterization software, for which the result which we follow was actually gotten, and compared with the acceptable range of these heating values, which we resolved, and we concluded that we waste that are prominent within the Polytechnic campus can actually enable us to generate energy from our municipal solid waste. Now this is the moisture content as we got from the analysis carried out on the from the software. And then this is the component heating value, and you can see the total energy, because at the end of the day, we're able to have more of this waste to produce the values that are acceptable. We have wood, we have papers, we had cardboard, we had plastics, we had rubber, we had textiles, and we had leather. These are the wastes that are more prominent within the campus, which are actually within the acceptable range of producing total energy heating values as compared to the standard rating. Now, this has to do with the components versus the average mass. This is the wastes that are there. We had dirt and ash, we had all of this, and you can see the various range for which they are prominent within the campus. This brought us to the discussion where the moisture content of the municipal solid waste characterized from 10 Poly campus has suitable moisture content for energy recovery in line with the standard range and test requirements, with 60% down to 80% for food, yard, paper, cardboard, plastics, textile, rubber, leather, wood, and gas. And glass. Tin, can, aluminium, other metal, and jet stroke arches. All of these were actually within the standard range of, if you can check in comparing the values we got from the software to the values from the standard range of 45 to 85, first for food, and next 45 to 85 again for yard waste, and next 3 to 8 for paper waste and all of that. If you check the comparative relationship, you will see that the waste we had within the campus actually falls within this. Similar thing happened when we also considered the waste in terms of the total energy value. You can see the values we got, and when we actually checked it in line with the acceptable range, they were all within the range, which means the waste within the Polytechnic campus, which at the very moment we are just gathering and we are disposing of, and they are either causing a whole lot of environmental hazard, can be sustainably brought into the point of generating energy from this waste. To bring this discussion to bring this presentation to a conclusion, we want to say that the components of the municipal solid waste massively available in significant quantity within the campus can be converted through thermochemical process, as they are majorly non-biodegradable waste, as you can see from the chart or table already presented. without eliminating landfills, thermal waste to energy can reduce the volume of municipal solid waste disposed to landfills considerably, which Nigeria, amongst developing countries, cannot demonstrate the utilization of waste to energy while taking advantage of the accruable benefits. From the results discussed above, encouraging stakeholders to look in the direction of waste to energy as an alternative source, as an alternative energy source is timely in view of the theme of today's conference. Because taking advantage of waste to energy offers enormous benefits ranging from sustainable municipal solid waste management through the application of physiochemical, thermochemical, and biochemical processes, which can lead to generating electricity and other useful energy provision within our country. Thank you.
Put your hand together, put your hand together. After the keynote presentation, I knew that a solid foundation has actually been laid for subsequent presentations. You heard the last speaker talking about pathways for waste to energy conversions again. I hope we're gathering our questions. They are willing to answer our questions. I'd like to assure that this technical session will soon come to an end. We have just about 2 more presentations to make, and I've been informed by the rapporteurs that they are quite in line with this program. We have Engineer Dr. Ejikeme Ugoha as one of the rapporteurs. We have Yoko Banadonwi as one of the rapporteurs. We also have Dr. Gabriel Godwin. They are working very hard to ensure that at the end of this program, we will have a communique to deliver to the appropriate authorities. I'd like to invite our brother engineer, Dr. Sobrekon E. Apesimama, to come and make a presentation on renewable energy potential of solid waste in Niger Delta, a review. Please put your hands together for him.
Good afternoon, everybody. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol, looking at renewable energy potential in Niger Delta. Let me take off from my chairman's recommendation. He said investors should be encouraged to invest in waste to energy technology. Now, one of the reasons why this paper is coming up is that the waste to energy industry is very, very huge and massive. And it's also very, very capital intensive. So if anybody wants to come in to invest in waste to energy technology, there are a few things that the person must begin to think about. And one of the parameters is he wants to know about the energy potential of that area. How much energy can actually be generated from the solid waste that is generated from that particular area. Now, we are looking at Niger Delta because in NIEE Port Harcourt, focus is within the Niger Delta area. So as a background, in selected areas like in Port Harcourt, we have 1.16 kg as energy generation in Asoma Bayelsa, in Benin City, and in other areas. And then in Niger Delta particularly, the open dumping and uncontrolled landfills is basically the method that is being adopted for waste disposal, as other presenters have noted. Now, these are some of the problems of waste management, and these are some of the pictures other speakers have talked about. Now, the concept of waste to energy, that is talking about converting energy from solid waste, either wastewater or solid waste, other means, into energy. There are a lot of challenges. As beautiful as this concept may be, we have the challenge of high cost of the waste to energy facilities. They are very, very capital intensive. That's why many people run away from it. Even operating them, maintaining those facilities is quite expensive. Then another challenge is that the availability and steady supply of feedstock. We heard about the Sweden experience. Sweden has so much of waste to energy technology, but they still import waste because the waste they have is not enough to feed the waste to energy industry. Then the low energy value of the waste that is generated within that locality. Then of course air pollution issues. Then public opposition, whether we like it or not, as good as waste to energy technology may be, the concept, there are places where people are opposed to it for one reason or the other. Then competition. In our own conference today, we are looking at generating waste from solid renewable energy from solid waste. But it's not only solid waste that is a resource for renewable. We have the wind, onshore and offshore. We have the solar, we have the hydro and all that. So when investors come into that area, they want to go into renewable energy. They will look at what is the cost of me to put my money into waste, converting solid waste to energy. Whether I go to solar or whether I go to wind. So some of this competition also is a challenge. The absence of waste to energy policies and regulation. These are the benefits. A number of presenters talked about it. Waste to energy is one strategy of managing waste. We know that we have serious waste management problem. It will also help in generating energy. It will reduce our dependency on fossil fuel. It will also reduce greenhouse emission. It will promote economic growth and it will bring about job creation. The waste to energy industry is huge. And if we embark on this, so much job will be created. And look at this one now. It will help us to achieve the goals of Nigerian Renewable Energy Master Plan. So many people do not know that Nigeria has a Renewable Energy Master Plan, and said which have a biomass-based power plants with installed capacity of 50 megawatts by 2015, which we've already passed. And by 2025, 400 megawatts. Can we achieve that? Now, looking at the suitability of the waste that is generated within a locality, it will be enough to, site waste to energy plants, and what kind of option, the pathway, is it the biochemical or the incinerator? Number one, the minimum daily waste generation required is that location should be able to at least generate 250 tons of waste per day. In our review, Harcourt, for instance, generates about 627. Just as our chairman said, Harcourt generates enough on a daily rate. In Moha, just 90.9, Opiaco 455.5, Amasoma 1.1, in Benin City is 466.8, and Onogele 68.9. So you see that in this location, so anybody who wants to invest, they will know the location to go to. But another parameter that they look at is the energy content, that's the calorific value. The minimum required is 6 megajoules per kg. In Bauchi, studies show that they have about 6.86, 6.83, in Unilag 17.23, in Abuja 37.96, in Benin 20.17, in Port Harcourt it is between 8.55 to 9.24 from studies. So it means that at least these areas are adequate, they are good to go. Then another parameter, another consideration to give is the biodegradable components. Because, like one of our speakers said, it's not only the incinerations that we're looking at, we also have the anaerobic digestion. In Yanabe, for instance, the solid waste is divided into 3 components. The biodegradable, like the food waste, the combustible components like the paper, the plastics, and then a non-combustible component like the glass and the metal. From Yanabe, you have about 37% is biodegradable, and in Masoma 51.34, in Ogele 35.95, in Port Harcourt 59, in Benin City 78.59. So from this chart, you will see that there are locations that have, organic waste. If you want to go to the biochemical option. Now, from all this review, it is very clear that Niger Delta area has the potential to use to convert solid waste to energy. But there are challenges. These are some of the studies that were made in Benin City 36.95. Now, challenges of waste to energy industry in Nigeria: lack of public awareness, and we need to create that awareness, especially by this platform. Limited waste generation and composition data.
we have to do a lot of research in this area. Not only in the urban areas, but even in our rural areas. In our rural areas, they generate a lot of refuse. The low compostable component of solid waste is a challenge. Then the lack of funding and financial incentives. Any investor coming in, they want to know how much money can they, how much money can they give them, the technical know-how and training, the lack of policies and regulatory framework, the public-private partnership arrangements, and then lack of funding for research. And then, as policy recommendation, number one, this paper recommends that there should be the provision of waste generation capacity, composition data, and energy potential of solid waste, both in urban areas and in rural areas in Niger Delta. That we can get through studies. Then engage in environmental awareness and education, increase research effort, just as the dean said that we need to like Center for Renewable Energy. Government and development agencies must provide finances. Like in Shell has what they call a life wire, program. Recently, they gave somebody who is into recycling $10,000, so they also can help. Government to encourage public and private partnership in conversion of waste to energy, because the government alone cannot. This time when I was coming here from the radio, there is this metal waste recycling plant anymore. It has been abandoned. And then stakeholders' participation. When we do all that, this dream will be an important one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kusimama. Please, let's applaud him. Let's applaud him. Let's applaud him. The paper has shown that the waste we generate has tremendous potential to generate energy. Thank you so much. We remember that we will have an interactive session, for questions and answers after the presentation. We'll just take the last presentation from Dr. Simema Adan-Uboka. He will talk to us about transforming solid waste to renewable energy, a case for legislation to empower local government areas in River State. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, very quickly, I would like to proceed with the presentation, all existing protocol observed. Now, the reason, these are the topic of contents, and River State, as you all know, we are facing a lot of challenges, and in our country today, the last report by NNPC stated that 77 million Nigerians do not have access to power. It's a challenge, and in River State here, we all know the challenges Riwama is facing, and we started to think, what's the way forward? How can we solve that problem? We realized that legislation to support the renewable energy supply has to be part of the process. Unfortunately, the legislations in Nigeria has granted the responsibility to local government areas, but they are not provided with the necessary, the requisite capacity to carry out that responsibility. Hence, the state government are responsible for it, and because the state government are responsible for it, they only paying attention to the municipality, and because of that, our rural areas and even the state itself are struggling to manage the waste. So our current generation, as of September, was about 3,000 to 5,000 megawatts per hour. Then, like our brother just stated, biomass, there's a roadmap of 400 megawatts in 2055. What is expected is a national policy. It's expected that states will domesticate that policy and try to see how they can make it effective. But unfortunately, such states, in our state particularly, have not domesticated that policy, so it's just there at the national level. Now, what I think, we have three major laws in waste management in River State. We have the River State Waste Management Law, which is the Governmental 2014, and they are responsible for solid waste management in River State. We have the dumping of waste in public places Bill of 2020. Though that's the one that prohibits people from dumping waste at the medians in River State. Then we have the River State Environmental Protection and Management Law. That's the one that empowers the state ministry to carry out their activities. Sadly, all these, if you look at them, they don't empower, they don't have, it was only in the River State Environmental that you have, where they talked about the local government areas, empowering them, giving them one or two responsibilities. But if you look at all these three, there is no renewable plan on how to manage effectively solid waste in River State. Sorry. So what are the challenges of a centralized? What we have now is just a centralized system, a system whereby the state government manages the solid waste. What are the challenges associated with it? This is not unique to Rivers State alone. It's unique. It also affects Lagos State and most other states in Nigeria. So we have lack of timeliness. Because mostly what they do is collection and disposal. Basically, that's what they do. They don't really do anything about awareness creation. They don't do anything about converting them to renewable energy and all that. So what the challenges is traffic congestion, frequent breakdown of trucks, enforcement of legislation, these bureaucratic bottlenecks. That in most cases, if you want to apply to become a waste collector in Rivers State, either as a primary collector or a secondary collector, there are a lot of processes. In Rivers State, initially it was 250,000 naira to be a primary waste collector, which means, like, for example, what it means is just for a street, for you to be responsible for taking waste within a street or a community, you are going to pay 250,000 naira. But recently the policy has been reviewed to 100,000 naira. That in itself is also very huge for someone, for a small business person to pay and try to do it. And the processes for you to even go that without with your money involved is very troublesome. Also, if you want to become a secondary collector, that is the one that has to do a lot of political influence. So the bottleneck is also a challenge, not just in Rivers State, but also to other states in Nigeria. Now, currently, what we operate is the open dumping system. Now, at the end of our conference today, what we want to get to is to get to the waste to energy technology. That's the things where we want to get to. Is it possible? Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. How can we go ahead? That we are going to tell you as we proceed. Now, how do we do it? We try to go, okay, what are the methodologies to use? We try to use a systematic review. We use systematic review, and it's a methodology that searches for existing studies, evaluate the contribution, analyze them, synthesize the data, and report the findings in a clear construction. The aim is to gather every research relevant to the scientific inquiry. So that's what we use. It's a certification for it. It can be used to determine the number of studies that are taken on the specific question. It can be used to relate or determine the effectiveness and relative effectiveness. Let's see. Now, in doing systematic review, you have inclusion and exclusion because you get a lot of information. So how do you go about excluding and taking the ones that are relevant? We now did the inclusion, we did no restriction on public data, we did not restrict it, we did not restrict the age, we didn't restrict it, we accepted all regions, continents, solid management plans, communities or villages, then the exclusion, non-English, and these are some of the exclusion criteria to use. Now, for the systematic review, you have the scoping, you have the screening, and you have that. This is the best process. Now, in scoping, the key words from our title, we use them, which are legislation and local government areas, renewable waste and renewable energy. We took that to Google Scholar, we got it, we did a lot of general reviews. From that reviews, we now came up with 3 strings. And the 3 strings we knew was going to help us go ahead with it. And these are the 3 strings we got. Now, what we now got to the 6 strings, we started applying them to the different databases. We now found out, look, we need to break them, we need to reduce them because most of them couldn't contain the databases. So we now reduce them to string 1 and string 3. And when they talked about local government, we also found out that we were also referring to legislation and environmental regulation. So there was no need having string 2 anymore. So we now removed string 3 and concentrated on string 3. Now, so when we did that, our initial findings got about 13,300, 3,000. These ones were quite huge, so we knew that we needed to break this one down for us to get something we could really concentrate on. So that's what we did. Then the article screening. We now did this from the Progress and Google Scholar that had higher data, so we have to break them down. And if you look at this was what it's here, so you see them here, we got them here, so we broke them down, and we got finally for Progress, we got 110, for this we got 49. But we realized that most of the data, most of the information from the Google Scholar were in Progress. So there was no need to have Google Scholar. So we have to remove Google Scholar and concentrated on the Progress. So finally, these were the research. The 202 of them were the total articles we reviewed, and So we now did our final review on the ones we got, and we got this. Now let's go straight to the findings. I'll start with that. But okay, let's go to the findings. For Paris, I found out that in 2020, that's when we had the most research that has to do with renewable energy and centralized system. Then we also observed that Indonesia had most of it. In fact, Indonesia, Philippines, India, these are countries that are already practicing a decentralized system in which the local governments, the communities, the villages are the ones responsible for solid waste management, not the state government. And all these are the findings. Let us go to the key one. Now, for our state, our focus is Guama, because Guama is the manager for this, and we see that they are facing a lot of challenges managing the waste in River State. So what do we do? For them to have a decentralized process, the government has to share or give them responsibility through legislation. The legislation now will empower the local government chairpersons to be responsible for waste in their locality. Once that is done, they will empower the environmental supervisors, including the councillors. The councillors are the ones who will be interfacing with the youth and women leaders, the chiefs and the community. Chiefs are key stakeholders because they own the land. Land is a major challenge in solid waste management. Because land is a major challenge in solid waste management. Everybody has to begin the discussing with the chiefs at that point in time to look at the logistics they need to manage the waste, to look at how to go about creating awareness, to look at how to go about interfacing with people and seeing how things are going to be done properly. So now, what are the benefits from it? Like I was saying, from our findings, you can see that our primary waste collection, to give that responsibility to the local government chairman, give them responsibility to the local government chairman, they will know how to manage the primary waste collectors. These persons, those persons, then in River State, according to the River State waste management law, not the River State management law, you see that you have the Council on Environment. The Council on Environment, you have the Commissioner for Health, the Commissioner for Environment. These persons, they will decide how much that is going to be charged by every local government for primary waste collection. If you do that, because if you allow the system to be run by each local government, you find a situation where you have more primary collectors in one particular local government, while the other local governments will have this thing. Well, this is just the whole process. And the conclusion is community waste for community energy. That's where we can achieve that. Public-private partnership to provide finance, technical and management expertise. This is an area where the government should pay attention to. How to attract private partners to carry out renewable energy practices. Law enforcement and decentralization is the key to achieving effective waste to energy in the developing country in Nigeria. And that can be done when communities and the villages are deeply involved in it. Thank you very much.
Jam those hands together. Jam those hands together. And DJ, your phone is not working. The microphone is not working. Yes, when I saw that in public, I knew that that was going to be a perfect wrap-up for this conference because you will have noticed even in the discussion that every waste management effort, as it were, is concentrated in the city. When the lady who made a presentation on downtown management talked about it, she let us know that even the dump sites, the borough pits that are converted to dump sites are mainly centralized, located either within the city or just in the neighborhood. Thank you so much, Ajangabuka. Put your hand together for him once again. Yes, we are now going to wrap up. We will take interactive section now. I'd like to invite back to this presiding table the chairman of the NIEE, Engineer Dr. John N. For the session to finish so far, we have come to the understanding that actually nothing is waste. Waste is only waste in the hands of a person who does not yet realize the value. And the waste we have around us here has tremendous potential to generate so much energy that could effectively supplement whatever it is that we're having now and help develop the economy. I'd like to ask for questions at this time. Questions, discussions, contributions, whatever it is that you have. Then the why the microphone. microphone not happy with us? DJ, why is the microphone not happy with us? Okay, yes. No questions? You mean no questions?
I want to thank all the presenters for wonderful presentations. My attention was actually drawn to the presentation on dock site management in Rivers State. And our sister in her presentation actually talked about the analysis that was carried out, on groundwater parameters. And I found it a little bit uncomfortable that she said those parameters were found within permissible limits, even around the dock size. Although she gave the reason that the clay around that is thick or something, maybe to prevent or slow down the rate of seepage of leachate from the surface to the groundwater level. Well, if that is so, if that was the result found out, I think that to me be a temporary thing. Over time, those parameters will have different results. I remember sometime in 2015, 2016, when I had to do a study on groundwater in Obiako and Kano local government, I found something very interesting, that the groundwater around Obiako, where of course we have quite a lot of dump sites, we found something, lead, as dangerous as it is, we found some elements of lead in some part of Obiako, and that is quite a dangerous thing. And of course, if you look at the dump sites, you discover that the vehicle batteries is among the things that people dump at the dump sites. And when these things get dismembered, of course, we know the content of car batteries, and they will usually leak to the surface of the environment, and then with rain and other things, leachate, and then they will seep down to have contact with the groundwater. So I just wanted to point that out. And the other presentations that were made, I discovered that we're always talking about the cost that waste to energy facilities are costly. And my question is, if we continue to use this as excuse not to embark on it, which source of energy production is cheap? A keynote speaker is from the energy industry, Total, and I know that if you go into analyzing the cost of producing 1 barrel of crude oil, just the production, and then not to talk of the cost of refining, and then cost of distribution to the final consumer, you also discover that it is not cheap. And so we should not use that as a cover, to run away from actually embarking on this very useful source of energy, converting waste to energy. And it's one of the things, like I said, I found it almost common to all those who spoke, including, I think, the keynote speaker. And I want to make that point that we should actually not look at the cost component. Most important thing is if we will address the need of the society, then we should not shy away from embarking on them. Thank you very much.
studies by our chairman here and the desert, and I'm seeing total coliform bacteria within permissible limits. I'm like, wow. That is to say, you don't have any pathogenic microbes in the water within the 150 meters that the sample 150 meters and less around the landfill. So in gathering all of those results, the next thing that came to my head, because of time, I wasn't able to carry out that aspect, is to look at contaminant transports within the profile of the soil. So let's know whether it is because the time needed for the contaminants to move from the landfill site to those water sources has not been covered. Maybe that's why we were not seeing, because some other studies I quoted, they actually checked metal levels. And apart from cobalt and cadmium in isolated dump sites, all other metals were within permissible limits. So the reaction I'm giving here is that take home that maybe we should also look at contaminant transports to know if that could be the reason why, as of now, we are not seeing the contaminants.
Okay, just have to say that currently we have a lot of researches going on contaminant transport at our sites.
Everyone, standing on existing protocol, my name is Engineer Yoko Onadowi. I appreciate all those who have made a presentation on how to convert solid waste to energy. But I discovered that most of the presentations are centered on characterization and all of that, which I think is mainly science-based. The scientists, they've done a lot of research on that, but we are engineers. In which way can we engineers come up with local technology? In which way can NIEE come up with local technology fabricated by us to manage to convert this solid waste into energy? So like the NIEE to look into that, we can start at our various institutions, polytechnics. Let's look at what is available. We have mechanical engineers who are members of this body and all of that. Thank you very much.
You know, we have done our pathways to conversion, and these pathways are technology-based. We are talking chemical conversion, biochemical and histochemical conversion. These are technologies. Okay, so they are not just scientific things, as you want to say. And by the way, there are papers also presented on bioreactor design, okay, and development, which also go beyond scientific investigation. So our last questioner, I will not think that it is completely correct for you to think that way. This conference has addressed both scientific investigation and technological development. I think so. Yes.
Yes, let me just add on to that. Like we saw in the papers, it's very technical. Our own duty has been done. What we need, if we have the funding, is to partner with the technologists, those who can utilize who can construct the chemical plants, incinerators and all that. We mention all this. These are all engineering process, and partner with them and design and come up with that. The technologies are there. It's not as if we cannot import them. We mentioned that several countries are using them. But the question now is having the support, because the investment is not, we don't have an environment where you can get loan without collateral. And how many of us have the kind of, we are telling you that a single plant will take about 100 million. For something that will serve only UST, and you have not talked of the downstream side of gathering the waste, paying staff, doing all that, establishing an office and running. So we need a lot of partnership. Even in constructing the local content, I mentioned the Local Content Act. We've been talking about this since early 2000. I know I was in the local content meeting organized by the Group General Manager of NNPC in Abuja some years back. And we just talked, the upstreams were invited, and after interacting, the question that was raised that day was that most of this local content we are shouting about, how do we really succeed if we are importing most of the materials? And the GGM well said is a process that we have to get started. Until today, we have not done enough on the local content. So it's not for environmental engineers to come and begin to talk about the plan. If I were to talk about the key thing that we need to, we'll put it across. But if we have partners now, we'll be able to help the government. We need a buy-in from government, from private sectors, to really buy into what this conference is coming out with, so that quickly we can get into doing that. And I know one of the papers also addressed on getting off from a centralized system of generating energy, where everything is run from Abuja. That's why we cannot be efficient. If you get to some countries, I was in India in 2015, and I visited one of the states, I think Rajasthan, and virtually in their farm, if you have about ox, about 4 or 5 ox, you can generate energy. They just take the dumpings, dry it, and they generate energy. So they generate their energy within their farms. They are not waiting for government. And these are when we are able to decentralize. I was happy when a paper talked about decentralizing some of these things. It's doable. But where government is literally doing it, government is the one that is handling waste. Rwanda will put everything. Imagine Port Harcourt, if only Rwanda will be that. It's as if they are not doing anything. If you want to register now, you'll be having it hot with government to be able to register to handle waste. So there are a lot of challenges over centralization of things. And that's more of the challenge than thinking that we probably did not. The engineering aspect of this presentation has been made already, just to, like our speaker just mentioned. But we need to see how we can buy in. I was discussing with my immediate past chairman, and we said, those that this thing is made for are not even here. I don't know who is representing government here, apart from our keynote speaker who is from the industry. Majority of them are not here who can actually support this, even by funding. They are not here. So it's like our usual professional talk, but we promise that we will drive it beyond the conference. Thank you very much.
Just to follow up on what the chairman is saying, even here in the paper, if you have the paper, on page 31, you will see design of small-scale bioreactor for municipal waste to biogas production. That's the engineering component of what we should do. The question you're asking is, how do we get beyond here? And I'm glad that Mr. Yoko Faradowi is one of the rapporteurs. So I hope you include in the communique, as the chairman has said, funding is key, and you and I don't have what it takes to procure, to secure the loans from wherever to be able to actualize this design. So the engineers need support. Thank you very much. If we don't have any further questions, I will request the speakers to just use. Okay. 1 minute, sir.
Personally, I want to appreciate the presenters, but for me, my question will go to the person that presented on estimating energy content and characterization of municipal solid waste using solar energy. I know that we can estimate energy content, but your part was good. But you did not tell us the meaning of solar link. Yes, you didn't tell us actually what solar link is, so that it will be interesting to us if one want to further work on your paper. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your observation. Just like you rightly said, that the heating value and energy content of solid waste can be estimated. Truly, Solar Link has actually taken care of all of these principles with respect to long model, which you and I know is a base model for which these energy content and heating values can be computed. And so Solar Link has actually been developed to take care of all of this characterization process. You agree with me that ordinarily, if you want to characterize and get the different weight by kg, which is within the standard way of characterizing waste, you can use Excel. But the software goes beyond just giving you these values, but it goes beyond, because of the programming, in identifying and spelling out all of these other aspects, including the moisture content, the energy content, the heating values, both high and low heating values. So it's a software that has already been developed to enable you to do just one thing that can carry you beyond what you think you can do with Excel.
Okay, thank you. That's why I'm going to draw the curtain on the question and answer, except that our presenter will have just 1 minute to do a wrap-up.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank the presenters for doing a very good job. For me, one take-home that I was just boggling my mind as we were discussing is the fact that science is good, technology is good, but we can elaborate more by including the economic aspects of these initiatives. Why am I saying that? Now, beyond the talk of science, an investor wants to know what does it take beyond the capital to buy the equipment. How do I translate science to money? And that is what attracts the investor. So I would suggest and propose that going forward, perhaps that should be incorporated into future research studies and things that we look at, so that it can give a complete dose of what can take this initiative to the investor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam.
Sorry, we don't need to.
No, you don't? Okay, Chairman. Oh, no.
Well, on this note, I don't think we need to bug the paper presenters. They have made very wonderful presentation for us to take home. Well, in the brochure you have, we have the abstract, but the real book proceedings is going to come out. And I encourage every one of us who are part of this conference to have a copy of it. It may, I don't know what the committee are coming up with, whether it's free or a little money, but we are trying to put all these papers together in full so that you'll be able to have it. I can tell you that what the keynote speaker has done is very, very detailed. Some of you have not read it. I read from the beginning to the end, and I was so impressed that he has made the conference very easy for us. All you need to is to develop a line with one or two of the subjects, because he talked about the thermochemical, he talked about the biochemical and the physicochemical. And all that, we only need to develop any aspect of interest, looking at the kind of waste that we have around us to have a very efficient benefit from it. So on this note, I wish to thank all of you who were part of it. I believe this is a very brainstorming section, and we have benefited. We have gone into an area of interest, very serious area of interest, and I believe you have benefited from that. So the secretary may be taking the vote of thanks. I'm not really giving the vote of thanks, but I'm trying to tell you that the proceedings is coming out and try to have a copy of that. Thank you very much.
Are we set? Okay, while we give them a couple of minutes, can we have the chairman of planning committee, Engineer Yawa, to bring in to take the vote of thanks.
Good day all. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. This occasion is beautiful, fine, and very lovely. I want to say, as the chairman of the planning committee, Engineer Miawaji Ntasati, special thanks go to the guest of honor, special guest of honor, our most valuable invited guest, and respected dignitaries, Mr. Chairman, and our dynamic keynote speaker, an erudite presenter. Transformation and consumption of all materials, whether you call it debris, objects, and generally all things, discarded or abandoned by their owners or holders, which may be recovered, stored, recycled, or reused. It is time for us to express our joy and sincere gratitude to various persons who supported us to make this event a huge success. On behalf of the planning committee and the entire NIEE team, Harcourt chapter, it is my privilege to offer our profound gratitude on this occasion. In no particular order, I wish to especially appreciate the special guest of honor, Professor Sunday Akopole, the Vice Chancellor of River State University, Harcourt, who, despite the short notice, accepted to honor our invitation, and also for the wonderful hospitality we enjoyed here at the amphitheater of the River State University. The guest of honor, Engineer Professor Christopher O. Harcourt, the Dean, Faculty of Engineering, River State University, for being very supportive at all times. The keynote speaker, Engineer O. Prade, though I have troubled him a whole lot, apologies to that, for delivering this wonderful piece of thought-provoking lecture on transforming solid waste to renewable energy, even in the event that this is a well-researched area. He demonstrated that huge knowledge gaps still exist in this research area in Nigeria. and most especially in Port Harcourt, the Garden City, which is littered with waste. We all see it everywhere. The guest of honor, Mr. Erabo Ahoje, the Executive General Manager, Total Energies. In fact, I was surprised when he called this morning and also briefed me that he may not be able to make it to this event, and he wished us well. Now, for patiently staying with us, though he didn't come, so I may skip that. The Chairman of Education, Engineer Otoene, Chairman, Nigerian Society of Engineers, Port Harcourt branch, for his unrelentless support and encouragement to the NIEE Port Harcourt chapter. The Director and staff of the entire Safety for Health, Environment, Coalitions, for overwhelmingly sponsoring the staff of the University of Port Harcourt to this conference, and immensely supported the successful hosting of the conference through various outlets. The CEO and the entire staff of Prime Wash, Engineer Dr. Perez A. P. Araka, for being there at all times for the institution, both in finance and technical contributions. To Chief D.B. Ikobo and his company, Bove Community Market, we say a big thank you. Time and space would not allow me to thank you enough. May God bless you immensely and grant you safe journey back home. Thank you, sir.
If you think that to say thank you is easy, then you need to see how comprehensive this one is. Please, can you put your hands together for this comprehensive? Yes. While the vote of thanks was going on, I conferred with the rapporteurs and I'm told that they are set. I'd like to invite Engineer Dr. Ejike Goha to come and do that position. I'd like to say that Engineer Dr. Ejike Goha is the Deputy Director of the Center for Occupational Health, Safety and Environment, and we are proud to say that he's our product. You're welcome, sir.
Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. What we are about to present is a communique that has been drafted from all that has been said so far in this conference, being the third annual conference and general meeting of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, Port Harcourt chapter. First, I want to thank each and every one of you that made presentation. It is important that we have things like this to gather knowledge that we can present and further use to change the environment to what we want it to be. From all the presentations made, it has been acknowledged that waste generation is inevitable. This is because the efficiencies of our system are not 100%. Therefore, at every point in time, there is always a waste that is being generated. Apart from that, the presentations also noted that the population is growing, and as population is growing, waste generation is also growing. And then the need for power consumption is also growing. That is why it is very important that we look inward and tap into these resources that is wasted and then generate the needed energy to support the growing population. Several waste sources were identified, and it was stated that all can be used in one form or the other. At the same time, some problems were also identified. One of those problems, or the problems include waste characterization, It also includes the economic aspect of it, knowing fully well that huge amount of money is needed for the setup. Despite these challenges, it is still believed that working on waste so that we can generate energy from it is economical, and it will help to develop the nation. It also creates job opportunities. But all of this cannot be done if the academics are left alone. There must be a partnership between the institutions and the IOCs as well as the government. On this note, we want to conclude by saying that all of this that has been presented, it is very important that we look into it. And let it not just end as a presentation. Business as usual, where people will make a lot of suggestions, and then it will just end in the library, and nothing is done about it. Presently, there are methods that are being used to handle waste, but the presentations also cover that those management has deficiencies, and that is why there is this thought that all efforts should be made to ensure the waste are being tracked. Thank you.
On the draft communique, by the way, it is draft communique because your own input is also required. And I believe that we have heard what Engineer Dr. Ejike read out to us. So it's time for us now to make our observations with respect to what he has read out. Is there something that transpired in the course of this conference that you think is not captured in this communique? Is there something in your estimation that you will want to be included here that is not here? Or there is something that he said, or the team said, that you think is not properly said, there's an adjustment you want to make?
Job well done. I need to mention that since the conference is holding in Port Harcourt, we want to be a bit celebral by mentioning that Port Harcourt was identified, we all know, as one of the 9 cities for waste to energy technology. Remember I mentioned that. Being a fast-growing city with oil companies, with manufacturing companies, with very large population. So, because we are trying to get the government to buy into this, we know they have Rwanda, but what we are saying is not just doing the waste transfer that Rwanda is doing from the streets to open dump, but we are looking at a way of having government to think of technology. Input, a presenter, I think he cannot be there, no boss can have been there. But having a very good incinerator by government, our government partnering with him towards building that. So we want to make Port Harcourt a catchment to this. Although we talk over Niger Delta, but I think I have special interest in Port Harcourt because apart from being the 4th largest city in Nigeria, one of the fast-growing cities apart from Lagos, is second when it comes to growing. And we have waste that can sustain both the thermochemical and the biochemical energy source. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You want to? Okay.
I want to introduce myself for this one. The chairman talked about the persons for which the message can be person, are meant. And unfortunately, they are not here. I think I saw in the brochure that the solar administrator of Ruama is supposed to be here. And I know that we have the Ministry of Environment in Rivers State. I'm thinking that the commissioner should have been here, or at least a director in that ministry. In the House of Assembly where laws are made, I know that there is a committee on environment. I am also thinking that the chairman of that committee or any member of that committee should have been here. I'm not talking about the House of Rep or even the Federal Ministry of Environment. So, as a body, we are raising a community out of this conference. Let us see how we can drum this in the ears of those who are supposed to hear this but are not here by going to the press. I know that we have to spend some money. We'll drum this over and over in the media. Those that want to hear, they will hear one way or the other. So that now that I'm not here presently, they can, through that medium, at least have a glimpse of what we have said in this conference. Some of them will agitate their minds, they will think over it, and I know that one way or the other, something can be done along that line. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So with that, can we now adopt this communique to be said? Thank you very much. I think with this will come to the end. I'd like to thank, join the chairman to thank the team of rapporteurs for a job well done. When I told us about Dr. Chikeme, I didn't tell you that he was one of our best. Indeed, among the best at the time. And so we're not surprised at what he's doing, and he's a very good ambassador of this respected University of Harcourt. Am I right? Yes. Thank you so much. So we've come to the end. Chairman, we didn't have an opening prayer. I will just, we can just say closing prayer. Can one spirit feel? No, we're finished addition. Can one spirit feel person? That was the ceremony.
Proceedings here today by the Spirit. Thank you, O God, for the thought-provoking presentations that have been delivered with great insights and understanding. We ask, O God, that you will help us.
Your name?
My name is Engineer Mrs. Ibiye, Director Amafabia.
Please, can you tell us your name?
My name is Engineer Mrs. Ibiye, Director Amafabia.
Can you tell us what's happening here today?
Okay, we are having the 3rd annual conference of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers with the theme Transforming Solid Waste to Renewable Energy.
Yes, sir. How far?
Well, we have seen what we have talked about. We have made detailed presentations stressing the fact that what we are looking at as waste and handling in the way we are handling, which is more of a charity way, is a huge resource that is able to even supply some of our energy needs. So we have proposed that we stop this charity method of handling waste and look at ways to handle it as a business so that it will attract investors and the environment will be better for it as well.
Do you have any advice for the students that are coming up to benefit from what people have just done?
Yes. So we are happy that there were students in the hall today, and we believe that their minds have been fired up so that they can start now to start preparing themselves to they are engineering students, of course, so they can look at designing systems that will put to practice most of what they've heard today.
Do you have any advice for the government in respect to actualizing your goal?
Yes, really, the government is the policy maker, so without the policies, it will be difficult to drive these home. So government, please listen to us and demonstrate the political will to create the enabling environment so that these things can come to light so that the people can benefit from it.
Do you have any special thanks to anybody?
Thanks to the organizers of this program. It was a well put together program, and all of the presenters for the knowledge they shared today.
What do you pray God to do for this great institute today?
We pray that God will continue to bless us and increase us in wisdom so that we shall have more and more conferences that address issues that are very silent and potent in our environment so that our environment will be better.
What do you pray God to do for you, family, today?
Okay, God bless me, God bless my family, increase my hustle, and overall bless everyone involved.
Thank you. I can see you're a blessed person already. I believe God will bless you actually grant your heart desire. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
Please, can you tell the viewers your name?
My name is Engineer Daniel Itam Hogan.
Can you tell us what's happening here today?
Today we had the third annual, the third conference, Nigerian Institute of Environmental Engineers, which was very interesting. Very interesting. In fact, I came all the way from Calabar, and I said, if this could be this good, and there's a lot to learn from it, especially waste to wealth, which will cover a whole lot of issues and problems in Rivers State, in Nigeria as a whole. So this has enlightened a lot of us. And
in short, what can you say that this conference, 2021 annual conference, is a huge success?
Yes, it's a very huge success, and I wish it could be sent out in the media so that the government and the people that are supposed to know about waste to wealth should also be a part and learn from it.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, good day.
Please, can you tell the viewers your name?
My name is Opakete Braid.
Can you tell us what's happening here today?
Okay, we're having the third annual conference and general meeting of the Nigerian Institution for Environmental Engineers today.
You happen to be one of the key speakers, and you did perfectly well. How do you feel, sir?
I feel good. It's okay. That good feeling you have when an event you are involved with goes on successfully. I feel good.
Sir, please can you tell us a little about your company, the plans they have to make sure they promote institute like this?
Well, our company is academia and growth positive. If you know the IPS in Uniport, that institution was basically put in place by my company. So my company is disposed in terms of supporting the growth of knowledge, especially on subjects that relates to sustainability, climate change, waste and energy, as the case may be.
So do you have any advice to the Institute with respect to measuring up to this international standard?
I would say, as I mentioned during the course of the conference, that ideas are good. We have to expand the scope of these ideas and make ideas meet with the society and government. Because what is important is that we need the public-private partnership to drive most of these ideas to a conclusive level of end. So I think to that end, I think that the Institute can reach out to like minds, the government on the government side, and other agencies and stakeholders, agencies and organizations that share common ideas and interests on these matters, so that we can collectively work together to actualizing these lofty goals and ideas.
Sir, are you promising the Institute of continue being part and parcel of making this kind of program a big success?
Well, what will I say? I mean, as much as I'm available and my life first is available, any day, any time, I will always be willing to support the agency, especially on the cause of this team, which is energy, waste, and of course meeting these global aspirations.
What do you pray God to do for you today?
Sorry?
What do you pray God to do for you today?
Keep me alive, long life, and protect every one of us, including all the participants, so that we will meet again to further the discussion.
Thank you. I believe God will surely grant you your desire.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, God bless you.
Thank you.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Please can you tell if you have your name?
I'm Engineer Dr. John Ugbebo
Can you tell us what's happening here
of
today?
University of Port Harcourt and also the chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Environmental Engineers, Port Harcourt Chapter.
Sir, can you tell us what's happening here today?
Yeah, today we just had our conference, and our annual conference. This is the third annual conference we're having here today.
I can see your annual conference happens to be a huge success.
Yes.
So how do you feel?
Oh, I feel very great. I'm happy the principal officers of the university were there, the VC, the Dean of Engineering, the HODs, and I'm also happy because of the topic which we talked about today, transforming solid waste to energy resource. Is what Nigeria actually need now, especially in the face of not having enough energy. We're not generating enough energy for the teeming public.
So there are people that are supposed to be here today but did not turn up. Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, particularly the government. They are not here, but I know that they will be very strong partners to what we are talking about. So my advice for them is that government should look into what our community today with respect to turning waste to energy, and try to embrace the technology which we have prescribed to do, which we have recommended today. We've mentioned about thermochemical energy. We also mentioned about biochemical energy resources that will really help to build up the energy capacity of Port Harcourt and Niger Delta as a whole by 10%.
Sir, the proposition of waste to money, how fast is your institute diving into this venture?
Well, it's a key thing. We have it in mind. We are ready almost immediately to commence in that. And all we need is the resources, the funding. If we can have enough funding, we'll be able to come up with the technology to drive that process. It's a highly profitable venture, because so many countries have already, developed countries and Asian countries have keyed into that. And for instance, if you go into places like India, within the communities, you see them generate their own energy in support of what the government is also giving to them. So we are ready if we get the support from the government and the private sectors.
Sir, you invited so many people to this conference and they turned out in their number.
Yes.
What is your parting word for them?
Well, my parting word is that every one of us should form the teams of influencing the stakeholders so that we will look away from oil and gas, which has caused very serious environmental degradation, and we think of these waste of bioenergy and biogases, which can actually reduce the problem of climate change and also reduce the problem of environmental degradation.
So do you have any special thanks to anybody?
Yes, yourself in particular, and everybody who honored our invitation, and those who presented very high technical papers. I want to tell them thank you, and we are very grateful for the successful conference.
Sir, do you have any lovely word for your lovely wife?
Oh yes, that's for giving me the time. I want to appreciate her. I really appreciate her so much, and the entire family. Thank you.
Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
I believe God infinite must surely grant you your heart desire in Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Thank you and God bless you.